million. I accept the command. General Tian Wei exclaimed, his expression resolute. Yunlong Wang pinched his brow, casting a glance towards the inner palace. If the queen were to discover the humiliation her son had endured, she would undoubtedly be even more furious than he was. Even someone as formidable as Yunlong Wang could not help but worry about how to placate the enraged queen upon returning to the palace. Alas, women are truly a source of vexation. Chapter 59. Monkey Wine in Tianyi City. A ray of blinding sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating a handsome face. Yan Bei raised his hand to shield his eyes, narrowing them into a mere slit. Has it already reached noon? After the banquet last night, Yan Bei and Qiming returned to the drunken fragrance building deep into the night. Thus, he slumbered soundly until this moment. After a while, Yan Bei's eyes regained a semblance of clarity, and he addressed an entity within his consciousness. Tomato check-in. His check-in locations were not limited to Qilong Mountain. Any place would suffice. However, the rewards were random. It had been a long time since he had received something of substantial value. Yan Bei felt a swell of anticipation, curious if this change in location would yield something extraordinary. Ding. Detected that this place is the Drunken Fragrance Building. Congratulations to the host for successful check-in. Reward, a jar of monkey wine. Monkey wine. Yan Bei was momentarily taken aback as a jar of fragrant liquor materialized in his hand. At that moment, the sound of a door opening resonated. Qiming emerged from the bedroom, and upon seeing Yan Bei, a sweet smile immediately blossomed on her lips. You're awake too. At this moment, Qiming was clad in a simple camisole, with even her trousers appearing somewhat translucent like lace. Coupled with her naturally cool demeanor, the sweet smile she displayed melted Yan Bei's heart in an instant. You seem to be in a good mood today, Yan Bei remarked, rising with a smile. Of course, when venturing out with the renowned Mr. Wulong, one must maintain a cheerful disposition. Otherwise, if someone finds me bothersome, I would have nowhere to lament. Qiming playfully stuck her tongue out at Yan Bei. Yan Bei paused for a moment, then chuckled wryly. Indeed, Qiming had seen through his identity. However, it was no matter. He had no intention of deliberately concealing it since he decided to venture out with her. After all, spending every day together would inevitably lead her to uncover the truth. What surprised him, though, was the sight of the usually aloof and icy Saintess, who now displayed such playful gestures typical of a young girl. How could I find the esteemed Saintess so bothersome, when she is so beautifully radiant? Yan Bei jestingly responded. Upon hearing the title Saintess, Qiming's cheeks flushed a delicate shade of crimson. Now that she was aware of Yan Bei's strength, she found it difficult to uphold her identity as the Saintess of Qingyun's sect. Her meager cultivation was hardly worthy of comparison, making it embarrassing for her to consider herself as such. Please refrain from teasing me. From now on, do not call me Saintess, Qiming said bashfully. If not Saintess, what shall I call you? Yan Bei inquired instinctively. How should I know? You can call me whatever you wish. It is beyond my control, Qiming replied, her body shifting shyly. Yan Bei fell into contemplation, pondering what name would be suitable to address Qiming. Calling her by her full name felt too formal. Yet, it seemed inappropriate to refer to her as Menger like the sect leader or master, as it would imply too much intimacy. I shall call you Xiao Meng from now on, Yan Bei declared with a smile. Xiao Meng repeated the name softly, a radiant smile blossoming on her face. Let that be my name henceforth. With that settled, Yan Bei continued. It is already past noon. Are you hungry, Xiao Meng? Shall we venture out for a meal? I happen to have a jug of fine wine. He produced the monkey wine he had just obtained from signing in. Now that you mention it, I am rather hungry. But perhaps we should forego dining out. Instead, we could have the server bring our meal to the room, Qiming suggested, confidently taking a seat on the sofa. Unbeknownst to her, at the very moment she sat down, her attire inadvertently revealed her figure, two enticing curves swaying freely. Yan Bei, possessing considerable composure, could not help but notice this captivating sight. Instantly, an inappropriate heat surged within him, almost causing blood to rush from his nose and mouth. He swiftly turned away, his cheeks flushed despite his usual boldness. It would be rather inconvenient for you to reveal such in public. The patrons of the tavern might go wild, he remarked. Qiming found amusement in Yan Bei's reaction, surprised that someone as fearless as him would feel bashful in her presence. Yan Bei quickly made his escape, heading straight to the door of room 1. Upon entering, a smiling server approached him. Esteemed guest, how may I assist you? The server inquired. Yet, upon recognizing Yan Bei, an expression of fear flickered in his eyes. The reputation of room 1 at the Zuexiang Tavern had spread throughout Tianyi City, not due to its opulence, but because of its current occupant. News of Yan Bei's confrontation with the heir of the Baquan sect, Wang Li, had circulated, including his audacious remarks dismissing the divine offspring as mere clay chickens and tile dogs. Such a reckless individual resided in their establishment, instilling apprehension in the ordinary server. To serve a lord is akin to accompanying a tiger, he thought, fearing that a mere misstep might provoke this formidable figure into a wrathful response. However, the server's concerns were unfounded. Yanbei casually ordered a selection of dishes. "That will suffice. Please have them delivered to my room once prepared," he instructed the server. "Of course. Is there anything else you require?" the server asked. "Nothing more. Ah, and please fetch 2 wine cups. Here is the payment. Keep the change." Yanbei tossed a bag of spirit stones before shutting the door behind him. Now he can be considered quite affluent. After annihilating the Blood God sect, he acquired millions of spirit stones. Recently, he had also just received another million from that so-called ninth prince. In Yanbei's possession, spirit stones were abundant. The young waiter opened the bag in his hand, and instantly, a dazzling white light nearly blinded him. He stood there, momentarily dazed. This meal could hardly cost more than 5 spirit stones, yet there were actually over 100 spirit stones within the bag. 1 spirit stone alone could ensure the sustenance of an ordinary mortal family for several years. The guest residing in room 1 had casually tipped him with over 100 spirit stones. The young waiter was overwhelmed with excitement. With such a fortune, his life would undergo a tremendous transformation. However, he did not forget Yanbei's instructions and hurried to the kitchen to arrange the dishes as ordered. Soon, steaming hot delicacies were delivered to room 1. In room 1, the curtains were drawn, and a soft, warm light enveloped the faces of the 2 individuals. They exchanged smiles, and the room was suffused with a subtle ambience. Observing the scene, Yanbei felt a trace of nostalgia. It resembled a candlelit dinner from his past life. He gentlemanly poured a cup of monkey wine for Qimeng. They clinked their glasses together. Qimeng took a delicate sip, and her eyes immediately brightened. The wine was undoubtedly fragrant and rich, but what astonished her was that after just a small sip, she sensed a subtle enhancement in her cultivation. To confirm her suspicion, she quickly took another sip. Indeed, it was the wine's effect. Suddenly, her expression changed, and she closed her eyes. With a powerful aura emanating from her, she broke through to the 4th level of the Thunder Tribulation realm. "What kind of wine is this?" Qimeng exclaimed in shock. After just 2 sips, her cultivation had risen a level. It was simply terrifying. "This wine is called monkey wine, a recent acquisition of mine," Yanbei replied with a gentle smile. Although Tomato had not elaborated on the wine, it must be exceptional. The aroma of the wine rivaled that of Moutai from his previous life. But this wine carried an intriguing fruity scent as well. "Monkey wine," Qimeng murmured, unable to conceal her astonishment. The name of this wine was indeed peculiar. Could it be brewed by monkeys? She gazed in surprise at the glass of wine in her hand. At that moment, this seemingly simple cup felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds. She was terrified of spilling even a drop. She realized that this cup, if presented to the outside world, could be deemed celestial brew. Even a single cup would likely be priceless, enough to drive all cultivators mad with desire. At this moment, Qimeng felt a twinge of reluctance to drink it. Could such a divine concoction be squandered by her? "Why are you just staring at it? It's not some rare treasure," Yanbei remarked as he raised his glass and drank it all in one go. He found nothing particularly remarkable about the wine, merely sensing it was akin to fruit juice, albeit with a hint of alcoholic sharpness. Qimeng watched with a pang of heartache as Yanbei downed a glass in one gulp. "Perhaps we should save some to take back for Uncle Feng and the others to taste." Resisting the urge to drink it all at once, Qimeng set the glass back on the table. Yanbei's action slowed, and he cast a gentle glance at Qimeng, who sat before him. "I have already set aside a portion for them. Drink up, it's perfectly fine." Yanbei produced another wine pot, exuding an aroma reminiscent of the famed monkey wine. He knew well that his master had a fondness for wine, so upon acquiring the monkey wine, he had divided it into 2 portions, of which they were now savoring merely a small fraction. Qimeng's face lit up with a bright smile upon seeing the wine pot in Yanbei's hand. In that moment, they exchanged knowing smiles, their reservations dissipating. Qimeng opened her heart and began to drink with Yanbei. Undeniably, the monkey wine was exquisite. Even Qimeng, who seldom indulged in alcohol, found herself utterly enamored with its flavor after a few sips. Thus, they drank profusely. "I can still drink," Qimeng exclaimed. Her eyes glazed as she hiccuped. At that moment, she was far removed from her icy goddess persona. After her declaration, she collapsed onto the table, unconscious. Yanbei, though not as far gone as Qimeng, was not in a much better state. His complexion flushed and his mind in a haze. The monkey wine was indeed no ordinary beverage, possessing a potent after-effect. Even someone of Yanbei's caliber found it challenging to withstand. Were it not for his cultivation, he too might have succumbed. "All right, it's time for bed. You can't drink anymore," Yanbei murmured through blurred vision. He then unsteadily rose to his feet, intending to carry the unconscious Qimeng back to her room. With a gentle embrace around her waist, he helped her up, and together they stumbled toward the bedroom, colliding with the walls along the way. This was not intentional on Yanbei's part, for he was quite unaware of his actions. His sole focus was to ensure Qi Ming reached her room, fearing she might catch a chill if left outside. At long last, through his persistent efforts, Yan Bei managed to escort Qi Ming into the bedroom. As soon as the door swung open, a waft of fragrant air enveloped them, momentarily clearing Yan Bei's mind. Feeling the warmth emanating from his palm and gazing upon Qi Ming's exquisite beauty, he felt a stir of emotions. Nevertheless, he restrained himself. He gently placed Qi Ming on the bed and prepared to rise. "You should sleep. I'll rest on the sofa," he said to the bedside table. Just as he turned, a pair of delicate, almost ethereal hands grasped him. "I don't want you to leave." With a firm tug, Yan Bei found himself falling onto the bed. In that instant, he seemed to lose consciousness, drifting into a deep slumber. The following day, he awoke with a throbbing headache. Yan Bei extended his hand to rub his forehead, contemplating the overwhelming potency of the monkey wine. Suddenly, he sensed a warm breath beside him. He opened his eyes wide, surveying the surrounding environment and the quilt draped over him. Oh no, could it be? He slowly turned his head, and what met his gaze was an exquisite face. Her flowing black hair sprawled like clouds, and even in slumber, the sorrow lingering in her brow and eyes could not be erased. His eyes traveled over her butterfly-like lashes and rosy lips, finally landing on her delicately exposed shoulder, prompting a tightening of his breath at the sight of her skin. Pure as milk, gazing at the slightly disheveled sheets, he could only imagine the story that had unfolded upon them the previous night. Yan Bei was momentarily frozen, unsure of how to proceed. Yet, from this moment, he understood that he and Qi Ming would share an inseparable bond throughout this life. At that moment, a low, languid moan resonated in his ear, sending a shiver down Yan Bei's spine. In the next instant, his expression shifted dramatically. A snow-white arm draped across his chest, accompanied by a smooth thigh that enveloped him tightly. Yan Bei's demeanor stiffened. He dared not move, fearful of awakening the slumbering Qi Ming beside him. Chapter 61. Dream or reality. Time slipped away, and eventually, the inevitable arrived. This sleep is so comfortable." A melodious voice tinged with languor emerged as Qi Ming slightly opened her beautiful eyes. A remarkably handsome face instantly appeared before her. Qi Ming was momentarily taken aback, then shook her head. Is this a dream? Though she occasionally dreamt of Yan Bei, the sensation this time felt overwhelmingly real. She could even feel the warmth radiating from him. However, being held while sleeping was rather pleasant. As Qi Ming indulged in her wandering thoughts, an unexpected voice pierced the air. "You must let me explain," Yan Bei said with utmost seriousness. Qi Ming's heart jolted, but she soon relaxed. It was quite normal for dream figures to speak. She then tightened her embrace around Yan Bei with her jade-like legs, leaning slightly closer. After all, this was a dream, and she adhered to the notion that one should seize the opportunity when it arises. Yan Bei gazed at Qi Ming in utter astonishment. This girl was nothing like he had imagined. Shouldn't a person wake up in such a situation with a startled scream, promptly snatching away the quilt to cover themselves? Why was it different for him? Qi Ming woke without a fuss, even choosing to draw him in closer. What was this? Had his handsome visage completely captivated her? Indeed, it seemed so. However, at that moment, a flicker of doubt crossed Qi Ming's eyes. Was the dream this vivid? She questioned, touching the softness beneath her fingers, which felt undeniably real, accompanied by the strong rhythm of his heartbeat, filling her with uncertainty. In the next heartbeat, her beautiful eyes widened significantly. No way. Could this truly be real? Qi Ming lifted her head once more, casting a glance toward Yan Bei. Upon noticing her gaze, Yan Bei broke into a smile. At that moment, Qi Ming was utterly stunned. Was this not a dream? Certainly not. Yan Bei smiled gently, and the air within the room seemed to freeze in that instant. Time stretched on, though how long it lasted was uncertain. Suddenly, a piercing sound erupted from the bedroom. Yan Bei's heart raced, and he quickly covered Qi Ming's mouth with his hand. Such a noise, if it escaped, would surely lead others to speculate about what they had been up to in the room. Qi Ming struggled incessantly, but her strength paled in comparison to Yan Bei's. Cough, cough. Xiao Ming, let me explain. I truly did not mean it. Yan Bei continued to plead, only to let out a painful cry as he hastily withdrew his hand. Qi Ming had bitten down on his finger. If not for his formidable physique, it might have snapped under her grip. Seeing the blood trickling from Yan Bei's finger, a flicker of panic crossed Qi Ming's eyes. She had not anticipated that her moment of desperation would lead to such severity. I'm so sorry. I was just so frightened, Qi Ming said softly, wrapping herself in the blanket, her voice laced with grievance. Tears glistened in the corners of her eyes, cascading down her cheeks, leaving her expression tragically sorrowful. Yan Bei, witnessing her distressed demeanor, felt a surge of guilt wash over him. Ignoring the pain in his finger, he enveloped her in a warm embrace. The one who should apologize is me, he murmured, gently patting her back in a soothing gesture. He understood that any girl waking to such an event would find it difficult to accept. Nestled in Yan Bei's arms, Qi Ming trembled, still shaken by the ordeal. After a while, with tear-filled eyes, she raised her gaze to meet his. Rest assured, I will not hinder your future. Let us pretend as though nothing occurred. In her eyes, a person with her meager talents was unworthy of someone as extraordinary as Yan Bei, though she possessed a modicum of beauty. In a world where martial prowess reigned supreme, a figure like Yan Bei could easily attract admirers. He must be feeling quite conflicted as well. It would be better for her to voice her thoughts first, lest they both lose face in the end. Yan Bei gazed at her with a wry smile. Just as he was about to speak, Qi Ming, her expression forlorn and tears brimming, spoke again. You are destined to be the focus of countless admirers. Destined for a brilliant life, while I am merely a fragile saintess of a minor sect, unworthy of you. At that moment, her eyes shimmered with tears. The once icy goddess was now utterly unconcerned with her image. From the very beginning, the enigmatic figure of Mr. Wulong had captured Qi Ming's heart, igniting her admiration. Following the various events at the Qingyan sect, it was Yan Bei who intervened to resolve the crises. It was only after Yan Bei's true identity was revealed that Qi Ming realized Mr. Wulong was indeed Yan Bei, coupled with the rude provocations from Huang Feng. It was always Yan Bei who stood up to protect her in times of peril. The figure of Yan Bei has long left an indelible mark in Qi Ming's heart. Silly girl, what absurd thoughts occupy your mind? Yan Bei discerned the underlying sentiment in Qi Ming's tone. She had feared that he would disapprove of her. Yan Bei is not one to abandon someone at the onset of difficulties. Having encountered these events, he would take responsibility to the end. With a heart full of tenderness, Yan Bei gazed at Qi Ming's expression of grievance and enveloped her in a tight embrace. Chapter 62. The Ascendance of the Royal Dragon. A momentous revelation, silly girl. I too harbor feelings for you. Yan Bei gently caressed her hair, speaking with a soft countenance. Qi Ming, bewildered, lifted her gaze to meet Yan Bei's. You like me? Her eyes flickered with a hint of panic, uncertainty lacing her words. She feared that perhaps she had merely imagined it. Yan Bei nodded emphatically, his gaze resolute. For a fleeting moment, Qi Ming's expression froze in disbelief. Do you truly like me? You don't mind my talents? Yan Bei, observing the cautious demeanor of Qi Ming, chuckled softly. I cherish you as a person, not merely for your abilities. His eyes, brimming with affection, remained fixed on Qi Ming as he tightened his hold on her arm. Feeling the wave of warmth enveloping her, Qi Ming found herself momentarily entranced. You're not deceiving me, are you? She asked, having calmed her heart, yet still harboring uncertainty. If I were to deceive you, I would. Before Yan Bei could finish, a warm hand pressed against his lips. He gently removed her hand and met her crimson lips with his own. They embraced, entwined in each other, reluctant to part even for a moment. Trust me, as long as I am here, you shall never suffer even a hint of injustice. I believe you, she replied softly. The following day, a mere day remained until the opening of the Tianyi secret realm. In Tianyi City, an air of excitement pervaded as countless individuals awaited the event. In a sprawling estate, Huang Feng stood in the courtyard, gazing skyward, seemingly anticipating something. Moments later, a terrifying roar reverberated, sending a jolt through the hearts of many. Look, what is that? Numerous onlookers pointed skyward, their faces etched with horror. At that moment, a multitude of figures appeared upon the distant horizon, clad in battle armor, their presence awe-inspiring, akin to divine warriors descending from myth. Even before their arrival, an air of ironclad resolve surged forth. Who approaches? A thunderous voice erupted from the city lord's residence, followed by an overwhelming aura of authority. Tianlin's figure materialized in the void, his expression grave as he surveyed the distance. From the throng of figures emerged a man clad in golden armor. City Lord, I am the second prince of the Yunlong Kingdom, here on my father's orders to apprehend a criminal. The second prince, Huang Long, stepped forward, bowing respectfully to Tianlin. The city was abuzz with shock. Apprehend a criminal? Could it be the one who assaulted Huang Feng in the streets? The swift arrival of the Yunlong Kingdom confirmed the rumors. Huang Feng was indeed the most cherished son of the king. Why such a grand display in our Tianyi city to capture a criminal? In what place has the royal Cloud Dragon arrived? It is not the kingdom of Cloud Dragon. A sinister expression crossed Tianlin's face, and an overwhelming aura erupted from him, causing the heavens to tremble with a resounding roar. The cultivators of Tianyi city were greatly shaken. Truly, the lord of the city had the audacity to call upon the name of the Cloud Dragon King directly. Just when everyone anticipated that the second prince would soon erupt in fury, the expression of the royal dragon shifted, yet he did not display anger. You jest, my lord, he said. Tianyi City stands independently and is not governed by any authority. I have come only to apprehend those who have wronged my brother a few days prior. I kindly request your assistance. Allow me to enter the city alone. The demeanor of the second prince was notably humble, unperturbed by Tianlin's words. He had previously inquired of his father why such a diminutive city as Tianyi could stand resiliently in the eastern domain, unbound by any faction. He had even suggested that perhaps his father should dispatch troops to seize Tianyi City, thus expanding the borders of their kingdom. The very notion of sending troops to conquer Tianyi City and extend the realm's territory caused the Cloud Dragon King's expression to shift dramatically. Nonsense. The Cloud Dragon King exploded in wrath, delivering a resounding slap to the royal dragon's face, sending him sprawling. The royal dragon fell to the ground, utterly bewildered and aggrieved. Unable to fathom the source of his father's fury, he had merely mentioned Tianyi City. After a prolonged silence, the Cloud Dragon King finally spoke again, and his subsequent words would be etched in the royal dragon's memory for eternity. He distinctly recalled the Cloud Dragon King declaring, "Tianyi City? Huh, my son. You must never entertain any notions regarding this place. Tianyi City is far more complex than it appears. Not even I, let alone the extraordinary, dare to tread lightly here. It involves a monumental secret. A secret so staggering that even the extraordinary would hesitate to approach." The royal dragon was shaken to his core. What could possibly be so significant? Yet, no matter how he pressed for answers, the Cloud Dragon King remained reticent. After the Cloud Dragon King departed the study, the royal dragon caught sight of an elegantly inscribed character on the desk, Emperor. The instant he beheld that character, a mysterious force seemed to strike him, causing him to stagger backward, his spirit waning, and his expression filled with dread. From that day forth, the thought of seizing Tianyi City vanished from his mind, and he became privy to certain secrets of the continent. Thus, when Tianlin audaciously invoked his father's name, he refrained from anger. He understood that while Tianlin may be merely at the divine palace stage, the power behind him was boundless, and he dared not act recklessly. Recognizing that this was Tianyi City, Tianlin's icy gaze bore no warmth towards the royal dragon. He was acutely aware that these individuals likely sought to aid Yanbei. However, he would not allow the kingdom of Cloud Dragon to succeed. For Yanbei was now inscribed upon his list, a candidate for the upcoming Tianyi Secret Realm's inheritance. And he could not afford any unforeseen circumstances at this moment. If the inheritance encounters issues, it is not merely the Cloud Dragon Kingdom that would face annihilation. Even extraordinary forces would be reduced to ashes in an instant. At this moment, the expression of the Emperor Dragon was grave, as he did not expect Tianlin to be so unyielding. Very well, since the Lord of the city has spoken thus, I shall not linger further. However, I must take this individual back to the kingdom. From this moment forth, I shall remain outside the city. The Emperor Dragon dared not act forcefully and could only order his subordinates to encamp outside the city, surrounding the entire Tianyi City, awaiting Yanbei's emergence. Observing the Emperor Dragon's actions, Tianlin scoffed coldly but did not directly expel him. Although he found Yanbei somewhat pleasing to the eye, he was ultimately not the heir of the inheritance. Moreover, did the Emperor Dragon truly believe he could capture Yanbei so easily? The terrifying guardian behind him was enough to instill fear even in the Emperor Dragon himself. Apprehending him would likely require the personal intervention of the Cloud Dragon King. Yet, Tianlin would naturally not offer any words of warning. With a cold laugh, he turned and departed. Tianyi City returned to its previous tranquility, but the cultivators within erupted in excitement. Chapter 63, The Unveiling of the Secret Realm. A terrifying figure. All cultivators in Tianyi City directed their gazes toward one location, the Drunken Fragrance Tower. They all knew that the Emperor Dragon had come specifically for the madman residing in room number 1. Another day passed, and today marked the opening of the Tianyi Secret Realm. Everyone was filled with exhilaration, eagerly anticipating the moment the secret realm would unveil. Just as the sun crested the horizon, a sound akin to the collapse of heaven itself erupted above Tianyi City. A terrifying black hole materialized instantaneously. Countless pairs of eyes gleamed with fervor as they gazed skyward. The entrance to the Tianyi Secret Realm had been opened. All holders of tokens could channel their spiritual power to activate them, which would automatically transport them into the secret realm. In the event of life-threatening danger, shattering the token would ensure their safety. The words of the city lord resonated like thunder in the ears of every individual. One cultivator, unable to contain his excitement, swiftly infused his spiritual power into his token. Whoosh! His figure transformed into a streak of light, vanishing into the black hole above. Countless others followed suit, and soon, beams of light shot up into the sky, causing the crowd on the streets to diminish by half in the blink of an eye. I too shall enter the Tianyi Secret Realm. Let us see who can impede my path. A thunderous roar suddenly echoed from within Tianyi City, as an elderly figure with hair as white as snow materialized in the sky. The elder's form was gaunt, resembling a desiccated corpse. Yet within him resided an unfathomable power. His lifespan was nearing its end, and he cared not for anything else. He could only seek entry into the Tian-E secret realm in hopes of finding a spiritual herb to prolong his life. He was a member of the moon-worship demonic sect. Was he also intent on entering the Tian-E secret realm? Many were taken aback, glancing at the elder. Possessing the terrifying cultivation of the divine palace realm, should he enter the secret realm and unleash havoc, it would spell disaster. After all, the moon-worship demonic sect was notorious for its heinous deeds, extinguishing entire clans and engaging in rampant pillaging and violence, making it a malevolent force of infamy. The figure of Tianlin also emerged in the celestial expanse, gazing coldly at the elder. Are you unaware that cultivators over the age of 25 cannot enter the Tianyi secret realm? Tianlin spoke with a frigid tone. I care not for such matters. Today, I shall witness how a mere youth like you can obstruct me. The elder snorted dismissively, his expression resolute, completely unfazed by any threat. With only 7 days left before his impending demise, he was driven to madness. He did not wish to die. The Tianyi secret realm had just opened, and he had heard whispers of treasures left by formidable beings of the Four Extremities realm, which might contain elixirs to extend his lifespan, granting him a chance to evade death. As his words echoed, the elder let out a howl that pierced the heavens, and a tempest of spiritual energy erupted, converging entirely into his body. His emaciated form began to visibly rejuvenate. In just a few breaths, his frail physique transformed back into that of a normal man, dispelling any semblance of age from his visage. Though his features remained gaunt, they now radiated vitality, his eyes shimmering with brilliance, exuding an aura of formidable terror. At that moment, his power reached its zenith. He was ready for one final gamble. The elder hesitated no longer. Time was of the essence. His current state could only endure for 1 hour, and should he fail to acquire a life-extending treasure within that time, he would perish. Boom. He enveloped himself in spiritual energy and charged headlong towards the black hole without a backward glance. Countless onlookers were left in shock, their eyes wide as they witnessed this scene. Should the elder truly breach the Tianyi secret realm, the casualties among the talented individuals present would be catastrophic. They all presumed that the city lord would intervene. However, when they turned their gaze to Tianlin, they found him standing still, his expression indifferent as he watched the elder rush towards the Tianyi secret realm, as if it had nothing to do with him. At that moment, rumblings echoed. The entrance to the Tianyi secret realm began to tremble violently. A voice of unparalleled authority resonated. Invader, perish. This voice was terrifying beyond measure, imbued with a powerful will that compelled even the lesser cultivators to kneel in submission. Boom. An overwhelming pressure surged throughout the heavens and the earth. The elder's form became as if ensnared by an invisible force, frozen in midair. Bang! A muffled sound erupted. In the next instant, the elder's body seemed to be crushed by an unseen gravity. A ghastly spray of blood exploded forth, and he was reduced to a mist of crimson, blood splattering across the void. All cultivators within Tianyi City stared in horror at this spectacle. The elder, a formidable being of the divine palace realm, had been slain instantly. Outside the city, Emperor Long had been observing the events unfolding in Tianyi City, equally astonished. His father had indeed spoken the truth. A great terror lay within. The moment that oppressive force manifested, even from his distant vantage point, his heart trembled uncontrollably. He could not fathom the source of such power. Yet, it was evident that someone, or something, had been vigilantly guarding Tianyi City or the Tianyi secret realm. At the Drunken Fragrance Pavilion, room number 1, Yin Bei's gaze trembled, having witnessed everything that had transpired. The aura, the power he sensed was unlike anything he had ever encountered. He could feel the extent of his current cultivation. If he were to confront it, he would be obliterated countless times in the blink of an eye. It was utterly terrifying. This was the first time since he stepped out of the prison Dragon Mountain that he felt such an overwhelming presence. Simultaneously, he understood that the rule barring cultivators over the age of 25 from entering the Tianyi secret realm was no mere jest, but a genuine regulation, a reality that existed. Should one dare to intrude, the fate would likely mirror that of the old man just now. We should take our leave. Yanbei exhaled deeply, then turned to Qi Meng, who nodded in agreement. The two clasped hands and activated their tokens simultaneously. Instantly, their figures became indistinct, enveloped by an inexplicable force, transforming into a streak of light as they surged toward the Tianyi secret realm. Just as Yanbei was on the verge of entering the realm, he found himself momentarily transported to a peculiar space, where a figure stood at the depths of this void. It was a magnificent presence, ageless and seemingly in their 20s, exuding an awe-inspiring charisma, with thick black hair and penetrating eyes that could pierce through all. Every gesture caused the very heavens and myriad paths to tremble in reverence. Yet, this figure turned away from him, gazing at the starry sky as if something of great significance lay beyond. Chapter 64, Blindness. Disability. Yin Bei was oblivious to the nature of this figure, yet the aura it emitted instilled in him a sense of dread, trembling, and fear. He had never encountered such a terrifying existence. His cultivation at the Divine Palace realm felt as insignificant as an ant gazing up at a towering giant before this presence. At that moment, the majestic figure seemed to sense something, slowly turning to face Yin Bei. That glance transcended countless realms of time and space. "Ah!" Yin Bei cried out in agony, blood tears streaming from the corners of his eyes. He beheld a furnace, burning away his very sight. He could neither break free nor escape. Qi Ming looked at Yin Bei's transformation with growing fear. "Yin Bei, what is happening to you? Please don't frighten me," she implored, her voice thick with tears as she wiped away his blood tears. Yet, she felt utterly helpless, unaware of what had caused this sudden change in him. Yin Bei's expression was one of immense pain, his eyes tightly shut, and the blood tears continued to flow. Suddenly, a flash of white light appeared before them. The two had entered the Tianyi secret realm. In a certain location within the realm, after a blinding flash, Qi Ming slowly opened her eyes, only to have her expression shift drastically. Her posture remained unchanged, still holding on to Yin Bei, yet he had vanished. She scanned her surroundings. They were in a desolate desert, barren and endless. Yin Bei had completely disappeared. They were separated. However, a pendant around Qi Ming's neck emitted a faint glow. "He is within the secret realm." Qi Ming gazed at the pendant, her worried expression alleviating somewhat. This pendant had been personally bestowed upon her by Yin Bei prior to her entrance into the secret realm, with the assurance that it would enable her to sense his location. However, at this moment, the pendant remained utterly still, serving only to confirm that Yin Bei was indeed within this realm, yet offering no further guidance. This implied that the distance separating them was unfathomably vast, rendering even the pendant incapable of discerning his exact whereabouts. "You must remain safe. I am coming for you," Qi Ming prayed earnestly, her hands clasped together. As long as they drew within a certain range of each other, they would be able to sense one another and reunite. Meanwhile, amidst a vast expanse of cerulean ocean, there lay a solitary island. The waves crashed against the rocks with a rhythmic roar, sending sprays of crystalline water soaring several feet high. The surf caressed the fine, sandy shore before reluctantly retreating, repeating this timeless dance and tracing silver-lined patterns upon the beach, as if adorning the majestic sea with a shimmering silver frame, enhancing its enchanting beauty. At the edge of the island, a figure clad in white lay quietly upon the sand. His garments were stained with blood, and his face bore gruesome scabs, presenting a sight both hideous and terrifying. This was Yin Bei. In this moment, he lay in a deep unconsciousness, his breath faint. No one knew what had transpired to him. Thus, the cycles of day and night continued, and 10 days elapsed. Yin Bei remained as he had begun, lying motionless upon the beach. The waves intermittently soaked his legs, chilling his body to the bone. Should any cultivator pass by, none would suspect that he was still alive. He appeared as nothing more than a cold corpse. Suddenly, the heavens opened, unleashing a torrential downpour. Raindrops, akin to the size of mung beans, relentlessly pelted Yin Bei's face. Yet, he remained unmoved, showing no signs of awakening. As the rain washed over him, the scabs upon his face began to fall away, revealing a visage that could drive countless maidens to madness. Another 10 days passed. Today, the sea breeze was remarkably warm, mingling with a subtle briny scent that invigorated the spirit. Suddenly, Yin Bei's fingers twitched ever so slightly. After 2 more hours, his eyelashes fluttered. After 20 days, he finally stirred from his slumber. He slowly sat up from the sand, the joints in his body cracking as if he had not moved in ages. However, his expression shifted as he was struck by a horrifying realization. He could not open his eyes. He was blind. Furthermore, he discovered that his legs were utterly immobile, as if they had severed all connection with his body. He was incapacitated. How could this be? When Yin Bei attempted to speak, his voice emerged as a hoarse whisper, echoing as if from the depths of the abyss, sending shivers down the spine. What had transpired? His consciousness remained tethered to the moment he had entered the secret realm. As the terrifying figure turned its body to cast a gaze upon him, his soul seemed to explode, leaving him as if struck by lightning. In that instant, a furnace-like entity ensnared his eyes, subjecting them to a searing blaze. He was then transported to the past, while the voice of Qi Ming called out to him. Although he could hear her clearly and wished to respond, he found himself utterly unable to utter a word. Even his eyes remained stubbornly shut. "Qi Ming." Suddenly, Yin Bei seemed to recall something and instinctively reached out around him. Yet, all he could grasp was sand. The exquisite figure was nowhere to be found. "Ah, why is this happening?" Yin Bei let out a furious roar toward the heavens, causing the surrounding sea to erupt. sending towering water columns soaring hundreds of meters into the air. He did not believe Qiming had abandoned him. He held on to that trust. When they entered the Tiani secret realm, they must have encountered some entity that separated them. This was the first time since arriving in this world that he felt such helplessness. Everything was beyond his control. In the past, regardless of the task at hand, he had always maintained a panoramic view, placing himself in an invulnerable position. Now, he was filled with trepidation and panic. How could Qiming, with her cultivation at the Thunder Tribulation realm, navigate the dangers of the Tiani secret realm? Where was she now? Was anyone taking advantage of her vulnerability? If someone were to harm her in his absence, what could he do? The haunting thought of her potential demise flooded Yan Bei's mind. A surge of overwhelming killing intent erupted from him, causing the ocean's surface to churn violently. Suddenly, he seemed to recall something and hurriedly felt for his left thumb, where a jade ring was located. It was still there. Sensing the faint glow emanating from the jade ring, Yan Bei's expression relaxed. Qiming was alive. She had not perished. And she too had entered the Tiani secret realm. With this thought, the weight on Yan Bei's heart eased slightly, and he then reached for his legs, which had lost all sensation. His immediate priority was to address his own predicament. Wait for me. I shall come to you soon. Although Yan Bei could not see, he gazed toward the sky, his expression resolute. Chapter 65. Is he a cripple or a blind man? The following day, on the small island, a white figure sat atop a rock, gazing into the distance. Strangely, his eyes were shut, his brow furrowed, and his expression appeared to be wrestling with some internal struggle. Minutes passed. He clenched his fists, his visage turning somewhat grotesque, beads of sweat trickling down his forehead, as if he had exhausted all his strength. Yet, he still could not open his eyes. Yan Bei gasped for breath, his demeanor darkening. Who was that figure? What was that furnace-like entity? And why did it imprison his sight? Countless questions echoed in Yan Bei's mind. After a moment of silence, he resolved, breathe easy. First, I must seek her out. With acceptance, he conceded that if his eyes remained closed, so be it. With his current cultivation, though blind, it would not impede him significantly. His mental prowess was extraordinarily powerful. Even with his eyes closed, he could perceive the surroundings. Yan Bei extended his hand to touch his legs, his expression growing increasingly grave. A day had already passed, and it felt as though his legs had become disconnected from him. No matter how he struck them, they remained utterly numb. It seems I must swiftly enter the four extremities realm to revive my legs, Yan Bei murmured to himself. Previously, at the Drunken Fragrance Pavilion, his arms had shed their mortal limitations. Now, if he could also transcend the mortal state of his legs and successfully step into the four extremities, he would be able to stand once more. Having resolved what needed to be done, Yan Bei immediately entered a meditative state, preparing for his cultivation, for someone awaited him. A day later, Yan Bei sat motionless upon a rock, his form resembling a clay sculpture. Suddenly, a terrifying aura erupted from within him. The fish and shrimp in the sea, some of which had gained sentience, scattered in every direction. Yan Bei's body began to levitate, floating in the void, his expression exceedingly solemn. After a moment, with a resounding boom, his right leg erupted in resplendent light. A formidable energy coursed through the meridians of his right leg, so vivid that even the blood vessels were discernible to the naked eye. Gradually, a thick, dark substance seeped through the surface of his right leg's skin. Bang! Another explosion resonated, and a smile finally graced the corner of Yan Bei's mouth. His right leg had successfully transcended its mortal state, just as he had anticipated. The moment his right leg completed its transformation, sensation returned to it. With his right leg fully restored, he proceeded to initiate the process for his left leg. 2 hours later, Yan Bei furrowed his brow. Indeed, ascending into the four extremities realm was not an endeavor to be accomplished in just a day or two. Despite numerous attempts, his left leg remained unable to complete its transformation. If his left leg could also transcend, he would truly have crossed into the four extremities realm. However, for reasons unknown, it felt as though this realm did not permit it. He sensed the lack of something essential, as if an invisible force suppressed the sky, preventing his breakthrough. Nevertheless, through his efforts, while his left leg had not fully recovered, it was gradually regaining sensation and could manage to walk with difficulty. On the beach, Yan Bei maintained a tranquil demeanor as he gazed into the distant sky, murmuring, "I have come to find you." With that, his figure blurred and transformed into a fleeting ray of light, vanishing from the island in an instant. In the Tiani secret realm, there lay an ancient city, a towering stronghold remarkably similar to Tiani City. At this moment, the ancient city was bustling with crowds, with vendors lining the streets and an array of inns, restaurants, and brothels. At the city gate, a handsome young man strolled into the city, marveling at its vibrancy. However, as soon as his words fell, the actions of those around him seemed to freeze for an instant, all eyes turning towards him. "Shoo, speak quietly. The youth's companions hurriedly covered his mouth, casting awkward glances around. Why are you covering my mouth? The boy questioned his friends, seemingly bewildered. They are all natives of this realm. They despise outsiders like us. By revealing our identities in such a public setting, they have already begun to grow wary of us. His companion responded, exasperation evident in his tone. Upon hearing this, the boy noticed the scrutinizing gazes of those around them and quickly fell silent, fleeing alongside his companions. Indeed, the Tiani secret realm is not merely a hidden domain. It can be aptly described as a world unto itself. Though not as vast as the outside world, its expanse is comparable to that of the eastern region. This place is inhabited by natives who have lived here since birth. To these natives, the group of youths appears as foreign entities. There have been others, much like the boy, who have trespassed into this space before. Yet, not all of them harbor benevolent intentions. Some malefactors, upon entering this realm, committed heinous acts of pillaging and slaughter, inciting the wrath of the natives. Ultimately, it was a formidable figure among them who intervened, cleansing the realm of such malevolent beings and restoring peace to this world. Rumors from the outside world suggest that the Tiani secret realm was formed following the demise of a powerful being of the four extremities. Those who have ventured into this world would earnestly assure you that such claims are utterly preposterous. A world of this magnitude could not possibly arise from the passing of a four extremities expert, let alone from a transcendent being or a legendary sage. At that moment, outside the city gate, a clattering sound echoed, capturing the attention of everyone present. What kind of figure is that? Someone exclaimed in disbelief. A young man was slowly approaching the city gate. His appearance was strikingly handsome, exuding a unique aura, though it was not this that captivated their attention. Rather, it was the young man's peculiar demeanor. He walked with his eyes tightly shut, leaning on a cane, limping as he made his way into the gate. The earlier noise was the sound of his cane striking the ground. Pedestrians on the street instinctively parted to clear a path for him, wary of accidentally colliding with him. However, what was puzzling was that despite his closed eyes, the young man seemed to navigate his surroundings with uncanny precision, avoiding any obstacles in his path. The onlookers held their breath, watching the scene with grave expressions. Is this person a cripple or blind? A little boy inquired of his grandmother, who was selling vegetables. Suddenly, the young man halted, turning his head towards the boy. Although his eyes remained shut, an overwhelming sense of terrifying mental energy surged through the air, chilling all present. The atmosphere grew tense as the crowd's expressions shifted, with many adopting a defensive stance, even invoking their internal spiritual powers. Chapter 66. The Eccentric. She has arrived at this moment. The little boy began to tremble, inching closer to his grandmother's side. The atmosphere was thick with tension, as beads of cold sweat trickled down the faces of those present. From the moment the young man appeared, an extraordinary aura enveloped him. They could distinctly sense his uniqueness. Who among the blind could navigate their path so clearly? Or how could a lame person exude such vitality? He was no mere cripple, but a highly accomplished cultivator. Sensing the hostility around him, the young man sighed softly, causing the terrifying mental force to dissipate immediately, restoring tranquility to the scene. Have you seen this person? He inquired, his voice somewhat hoarse as he produced a scroll from his robe. Upon unfurling it, a lifelike depiction of an exquisite woman emerged, captivating the onlookers who gazed upon the artwork with awe. This portrait had been created by the young man for the purpose of searching for someone. I regret to inform you, we have not seen this individual enter the ancient city. One of the formidable armored guards stepped forward, his demeanor serious. He was one of the city's sentinels, his brow furrowed with concern as he regarded the young man, a sheen of perspiration forming in his palms. The crowd held their breath, utterly perplexed by the young man's intentions. Such an enigmatic presence often leaves one guessing about their next move, prompting them to regard him with vigilance. The young man's expression seemed to darken as he rolled up the scroll and tucked it away. Alas, still no news, he murmured, shaking his head, his voice laden with myriad emotions, sorrow, longing, and helplessness. Indeed, this man was Yin Bei. The ancient city was not the first he had traversed, yet still, there was no word of Chi Ming. Where could you possibly be? He sighed, and in that instant, he began to fade from view, stepping forth and vanishing from the crowd's sight. Once he departed, the onlookers at the city gate finally exhaled deeply. What a terrifying individual. Who could he possibly be? The ancient city's sentinel was drenched in cold sweat, his legs trembling slightly. The composure he had just exhibited was a mere facade. Though the young man had not deliberately targeted anyone, the overwhelming pressure he radiated was unlike anything he had ever encountered. In his eyes, even the city lord might pale in comparison to this figure, a being of immense power. Commander, that image he held, didn't it resemble a soldier clad in armor? A soldier approached, speaking to the sentinel. Silence. Do not speak of this matter. The sentinel barked, his expression grave. The soldier shuddered, his face turning ashen. Understood. 5 days later, in a narrow alley of the ancient city, a little girl, no more than a few years old, held a small pinwheel and gazed up at the blind and lame young man before her. "Brother, you're amazing," she exclaimed sweetly. The young man looked at the girl's beaming smile, nostalgia flickering across his face. "She used to smile like that at me." "Xiaolan, come back," called the girl's mother, her face etched with concern from a short distance away. The young man lifted his gaze towards the mother of the little girl, causing her expression to shift dramatically, fear flickering in the depths of her eyes. "Little brother, I have come to take Xiaolan home for dinner," the girl's mother said, suppressing her trepidation as she addressed the young man. "Mama, look at the windmill that brother made for me." The little girl joyfully ran towards her mother. The mother cast a cursory glance at the windmill, offered a nonchalant nod, and her gaze returned to the young man. "Xiaolan, hurry and return home with mother for dinner. Brother needs to rest for a while," the young man said with a smile, his voice melodious and magnetic. The little girl's mother shot a grateful look towards him, quickly embracing her daughter before hastily departing. Yan Bei observed the mother and daughter leave, a self-deprecating smile forming on his lips. Is it truly the case that he appears so frightening now? It is not his appearance that terrifies. Rather, have you ever seen a cripple scaling rooftops? Have you ever witnessed a blind person strolling alone at night? The residents here are ordinary individuals who cannot cultivate. Encountering such an unusual figure would naturally instill fear. Yan Bei rose, his figure ethereal, and with a single step, he returned to his room. Bang! A gust of wind swept through, causing the door to slam shut. The nearby neighbors, witnessing this spectacle, immediately paled and rushed to secure their windows. Lying on his bed, Yan Bei felt no trace of drowsiness. With his impaired legs and blindness, it was indeed unwise for him to venture outside, for each outing rendered him an object of scrutiny. Moreover, he found himself at a critical bottleneck in his cultivation, unable to break through. Fortunately, his experience on Qiulong Mountain had imbued him with resilience, allowing him to endure solitude without succumbing to despair. However, one matter cast a pall over his heart: Qiming. He had searched extensively, yet found no trace of her. Logically, such a beautiful girl should attract attention wherever she went. Her absence of news was perplexing. The Phoenix Goddess and the Heavenly Dragon Son, who had entered this realm alongside them, had already garnered considerable renown. Yet, Yan Bei dismissed these thoughts. His foremost desire was to swiftly obtain news of Qiming. If she had truly encountered harm, the mere thought ignited a surge of anger within him. The very doors and windows of the room began to tremble ominously. It was unbearable to contemplate what his reaction would be if Qiming had truly met with misfortune. He struggled to avert his mind from such dark possibilities. Gradually, Yan Bei found a semblance of calm and slowly drifted into slumber. After an indeterminate span of time, just as he was on the verge of falling asleep, suddenly, the jade ring on his thumb emitted a faint glimmer. Although the light was dim, Yan Bei, with his profound cultivation and entire focus on the jade ring, perceived it in an instant. Yan Bei sprang up abruptly, his tightly shut eyes fixed on a point in the void. "She has arrived." Yan Bei's expression radiated unparalleled excitement, the shadows of worry dissipating in an instant. Just moments ago, he had sensed the aura of the pendant. That was the very item he had personally placed around Qiming's neck before his departure. At this moment, Qiming is near the ancient city. However, in the next instant, Yan Bei's body trembles, and a hint of panic crosses his face. That previous sensation has vanished. Just a moment ago, it felt as if an inexplicable force severed the connection between the jade ring and the pendant. Who could it be? Yan Bei roars, his brows instantly furrowing, as his consciousness spreads outward like an overwhelming tide. Chapter 67. The main city is celebrating marriage. The ancient city. Nightfall. The streets are dimly lit, with only a faint flicker of candlelight emanating from the surrounding residences. That girl was truly captivating. A bearded cultivator strolls down the street, accompanied by several friends. They exude the scent of alcohol, their eyes slightly glazed. "So do I," his companions echo in agreement, clearly having visited an extraordinary place earlier. Just then, whoosh. A brisk breeze sweeps by, seemingly mingled with a glimmer of white light, akin to a fleeting swan. This instantly jolts the bearded man awake. "Hey, did you all see that? It seemed like a white shadow darted past you just now," he says, glancing around with a hint of trepidation. "What nonsense are you spouting?" "We didn't see anything," his friends chuckle, dismissing him as having merely imagined it. All of them are cultivators at the Thunder Tribulation realm. If something had passed behind them, how could they possibly not notice? "It's true. I really saw it." The bearded man continues to peer around frantically. "None of us saw it. Have you encountered a ghost in the dead of night?" His companions mock him, thinking that he must have a weak tolerance for alcohol to conjure such hallucinations. The bearded man shakes his head. Could he have truly been mistaken? "It seems that captivating girl has enchanted you deeply," His friends laugh heartily. The bearded man chuckles as well, choosing not to argue further. They continue on their way. Suddenly, the bearded man halts, as if sensing something. His expression shifts, and he gazes behind him. A figure in white stands quietly at his back. A ghost, the bearded man exclaims, leaping onto his companion. The others quickly turn around, their expressions alert as they eye the figure in white. Who are you? One of the burly men questions in a deep voice. The others regard the figure with utmost caution. Someone capable of silently appearing behind them is not to be underestimated. Have you seen this person before? The figure in white has his eyes closed as he unfurls a scroll. An exquisitely beautiful woman appears vividly in the painting. The likeness is so lifelike that it seems she might step out of the canvas at any moment. Upon seeing the painting, the eyes of the men brighten immediately. The beauty depicted is simply breathtaking. They have never encountered such an enchanting maiden, and in comparison, the woman they had just indulged in at the Yihong building seems utterly dull. Never seen her before, the burly man replies, cupping his hands towards the figure in white. The figure in white appeared somewhat disappointed, shaking their head before turning and departing. As they watched the figure recede into the distance, a collective sigh escaped their lips. When did such a terrifying person emerge in the ancient city? Uncertain. Yet the bearded man couldn't help but exclaim in awe at the woman portrayed in the painting, his eyes soon glinting with a lascivious light. Indeed, even if she existed solely within the confines of the artwork, her unparalleled beauty remained undeniable. The gaze of the robust man also flickered with a hint of intrigue. If that woman could provide some pleasure for us, it would be splendid, remarked a rather unsavory-looking man with a beard, his face reflecting indulgent fantasies. Upon hearing these words, the expressions of the bearded man and the strong man noticeably shifted, and they quickly scanned their surroundings. Suddenly, a chill swept over them, as if an aura from the depths of the underworld had gripped their souls in terror. Her, can you dare to desecrate her? From the heavens above, a figure in white stood resolutely, casting a frosty gaze downward. In an instant, a flash of sword light sliced through the air, and before the men could utter a scream, blood gushed forth from their necks, causing them to collapse lifelessly onto the ground. Tonight, I shall find you, no matter what. The silhouette in the heavens appeared to regard the act as trivial, not pausing for a moment as it transformed into a fleeting shadow, darting through the city. In the grand hall of the city lord's mansion in the ancient city, a middle-aged man clad in a blue robe, his face adorned with a warm smile, addressed the assembled guests. It is my honor to host such remarkable talents tonight. A man in golden armor rose, clasping his hands in salute. Lord of the ancient city, you are too kind. As we have just arrived in this realm, there are many matters we wish to consult you on. Upon hearing him speak, several women present were instantly captivated by his presence. You jest, divine son. I am merely a lord of the secret realm. Should I manage to venture into the outside world, I may very well need the assistance of the esteemed talents gathered here, the city lord replied, waving his hand and chuckling. Indeed, the man in golden armor was none other than the renowned divine son of the heavenly dragon, known far and wide both in the outside world and the secret realm. Beside him stood numerous extraordinary individuals from the outside world, now his subordinates. Divine maiden, you appear to be troubled today. Why not share your concerns? I might possess some solutions in this realm, the city lord remarked, directing his gaze toward a young woman clad in a flowing crimson gown, who sat with furrowed brows, seemingly weighed down by her thoughts. At the city lord's call, the maiden seemed to snap back to reality. I am fine. There is no need to trouble yourself, lord of the city, Feng Jiue replied with a faint smile. Seeing her insistence, the city lord refrained from pressing further and resumed his engaging conversations with the other talents, expressing curiosity about the outside world. While the city lord conversed with the other extraordinary figures, Feng Jiue turned to glance at the disciples of the Fire Phoenix Valley behind her. Have you not yet located her? A disciple's expression tensed. There is still no word, but we are doing our utmost. Upon hearing these words, Feng Jiue's expression visibly darkened. What a bunch of inept fools, unable to locate a single person. She then turned her head and sighed softly. Where could you possibly be? In her beautiful eyes, two figures emerged. Since entering this secret realm, they had vanished without a trace, as if they had evaporated from existence. As the banquet progressed to its midpoint, the ancient city lord coughed lightly, signaling that he had something to say, and the attendees fell silent, casting their gazes toward him. Ladies and gentlemen, I have invited you here today for a particular reason, and I wish for all of you to witness this moment. The ancient city lord proclaimed with a beaming smile. Oh, what is it, my lord? Is it a wedding announcement? Someone jested, prompting laughter to ripple through the crowd. The city lord was exceedingly amiable and easygoing, fostering a pleasant rapport with the distinguished guests present. This young gentleman is correct. I, the city lord, am to be wed. The city lord's face was a portrait of joy, his features seeming to swell with delight. Chapter 68. The Bride in Red in the City Lord's Mansion. A hush fell over the gathering as they absorbed his proclamation. Is he truly getting married? Although known for his geniality, the City Lord was several centuries old. The notion of him marrying now seemed ludicrous. You did not miss here. My purpose in inviting you here is to witness this splendid occasion, for I, Gu Yuan, am to be wed. The City Lord's smile radiated with uncontainable happiness, evidently pleased with his chosen partner. Many in attendance felt a twitch at the corners of their mouths. They had heard that Gu Yuan had numerous concubines, yet now he was announcing his intention to marry. However, they dared not dampen his spirits. Congratulations. Congratulations, my lord. What a delightful surprise to hear that you are to be wed. Many rose to offer their well wishes, for another's nuptials were indeed a joyous occasion. Even if the groom had a multitude of concubines. While Feng Zhiyue offered her congratulations outwardly, inwardly she scoffed at Gu Yuan. At such an advanced age, I cannot fathom how he musters the audacity to make such a proclamation and invite us all here to celebrate. Were it not for my current limitations, I would have left this farce long ago. I cannot abide such people. My lord, since you are to wed, why not summon your bride for us to behold? What manner of beauty has captured your heart? At this juncture, Long Xingyun rose to jest, as the younger brother of the celestial dragon Sion. His words carried weight in the assembly. Thus, silence enveloped the crowd as they turned their attention to Gu Yuan, eager to see the woman who had inspired such grandiosity in his intentions. Gu Yuan's expression grew troubled, as if he were lost in contemplation. Do not keep her hidden any longer, my lord. Let us see your bride. Long Xingyun prompted once more. Seemingly having reached a decision, Gu Yuan relented. Very well. If it is a wedding, then let us meet her. He called to a maid standing not far off. Qiuyu, please fetch my bride. The maid named Qiuyu nodded and proceeded toward the rear of the hall. Moments later, a figure shrouded in a crimson veil approached gracefully under the embrace of the autumn moon. The many distinguished individuals present regarded this silhouette in red with subtle nods of approval. Although the veil had yet to be lifted, the alluring and elegant form, coupled with her tall, perfectly alluring physique and the hint of her fair skin peeking through, undeniably suggested she was a beauty of extraordinary caliber. The lord of the city possesses remarkable discernment. Surely, his wife is a paragon of unparalleled elegance. Long Xingyun offered a compliment that brought a sense of comfort to Gu Yuan, while the other remarkable figures also displayed expressions of admiration. Now that she has made her appearance, it is time to unveil her to everyone. Gu Yuan observed the crowd's anticipation, a smile illuminating his face. The assembly, invigorated by this declaration, included even the heavenly dragon son and Feng Zhiyue, who could not help but cast curious glances. Eager to discern the identity of the woman concealed beneath the veil, Gu Yuan approached the bride with a smile. Strangely, as the attendees beheld her form, a slight tremor coursed through them, yet they brushed it aside. With a sweeping motion, Gu Yuan gently lifted the crimson veil from the bride's head, and the sight of her breathtaking visage filled him with joy. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted, plunging into an eerie silence where even the faintest sound of a falling pin could be discerned. All gazes converged upon the bride's face, mouths agape, their expressions a blend of astonishment and disbelief. Gu Yuan reveled in their reaction, feeling a surge of pride. How remarkable, indeed, to be awestruck by my wife. I too was once enraptured by her beauty. But why is she here? At that moment, a voice broke the silence, laced with shock. Suddenly, three figures slammed their hands upon the table, rising abruptly, their eyes fixated on the bride in red. How could it be her? They exclaimed in unison, their expressions a tempest of shock and fury. Gu Yuan furrowed his brow at their actions. Divine son, divine daughter, what is the meaning of this? Indeed, the three who had just risen were none other than the heavenly dragon's son, Long Xingyun, and Feng Zhiyue. Is this truly the bride of the city lord? The heavenly dragon's son inquired, his gaze flickering with an enigmatic light. What do you mean by that? Gu Yuan's expression turned icy as he directed his gaze towards the heavenly dragon's son, confusion swirling within him. Why such a dramatic reaction? City lord, do you know the name of the woman beside you? Feng Zhiyue interjected, her voice sharp as ice, her eyes flickering with barely contained fury. This is my wife. Han Xingyue, what do you mean by this? Gu Yuan responded, his voice cold and resolute. Han Xingyue, what a delightful name. Feng Zhiyue retorted with a mocking laugh, prompting the disciples from the Fire Phoenix Valley to rise and stand behind her. With a flash of indignation in her dark brows, she continued, if my memory serves me correctly, her name is not Han Xingyue, but rather Qi Meng. City lord, am I mistaken? Qi Meng. The mere utterance of that name caused a flicker of emotion to cross Gu Yuan's eyes. Indeed, he recognized that the woman beside him was Qi Meng. Han Xingyue was merely the name he had bestowed upon her. A few days prior, a significant influx of outsiders arrived at the Tianyi secret realm, prompting Gu Yuan to venture out. Upon his return to the ancient city, he chanced upon a temple not far from it, where he encountered a woman. At that moment, Qiming, veiled, was preparing to enter the temple to pray for blessings for Yanbei, hoping for divine protection. Just then, Gu Yuan descended from the heavens, landing not far from Qiming. The instant he beheld her, his eyes were filled with astonishment. Having resided in the Tianyi secret realm for several centuries, he had never encountered such beauty. However, as the city lord, he did not resort to the actions of common brigands. Instead, he engaged Qiming in conversation. After exchanging a few words, Gu Yuan revealed his identity as the lord of the ancient city. Their dialogue continued for a considerable time, during which Qiming's initial wariness began to dissipate. Sensing his integrity, she deemed him not to be a nefarious individual. Upon learning of his status, a glimmer of joy illuminated her enchanting eyes. Moments later, she beseeched him to assist in locating a young man clad in white. Gu Yuan readily agreed, asserting that such a trivial matter of finding someone was a mere trifle for him, the city lord. Qiming felt a surge of delight, unaware that danger was stealthily encroaching upon her. Chapter 69. Feng Zhiyue takes action. Subsequently, Gu Yuan invited Qiming to be his guest at the ancient city, which would facilitate her search. Qiming hesitated for a moment, but ultimately consented, as she had nowhere else to turn. Her chance to be acquainted with someone of Gu Yuan's stature might be her only hope in locating Yanbei. Otherwise, with her current cultivation at the Thunder Tribulation stage, searching for someone within the Tianyi secret realm would be akin to finding a needle in a haystack. Thus, Qiming accompanied Gu Yuan to the city lord's residence. Initially, Gu Yuan maintained a respectful distance, never approaching her within 10 feet. Qiming entrusted him with a portrait of Yanbei, asking him to keep an eye out. However, as days passed, whenever Qiming inquired about Yanbei, she noticed a flicker of evasion in Gu Yuan's gaze. Realizing something was amiss, she suspected that he might not genuinely be assisting her in her search. Consequently, she expressed her intention to leave the city lord's residence the following day. Yet, Gu Yuan, unwilling to part with Qiming, found himself captivated by her unparalleled beauty, which seemed to enhance his own cultivation. Despite her resolute decision to depart, he could not sway her will. In his fury, Gu Yuan resorted to a despicable act, rendering Qiming unconscious and sealing her spiritual powers. Despite his position as lord, he grappled with his conscience over such an unseemly deed, refraining from taking any further liberties with her. Ultimately, after a tumultuous internal struggle, he resolved to take Qiming as his wife, renaming her Han Qinghua. In his mind, he believed that once married, with the passage of time, she would inevitably forget that man, and after they bore children together, she would come to realize that being with him was far superior to anything else. Thus, he summoned the remarkable individuals from across the realm to gather in the ancient city, allowing them to witness his wedding. Such a grand occasion could be deemed a modest recompense for Qiming. Consequently, the recent events unfolded. Within the Lord's Hall, the ancient city lord spoke. Qiming has already taken a husband. Your actions seem rather inappropriate. Feng Zhiyue cast a frosty gaze towards Gu Yuan. Husband? Some of the locals were unfamiliar with Qiming, yet the eyes of the illustrious guests from beyond the city were drawn to a figure clad in white. Nonsense. Qing Yu is a native of this realm, not the Qiming you speak of. Gu Yuan's countenance darkened as he snorted coldly. Someone, escort the lady back to her chamber, he commanded, directing his attention to Qiu Yu. Qiu Yu trembled, hastily supporting Qiming as they attempted to retreat towards the back of the hall. Hold on. The heavenly dragon's son interjected, his gaze fixed intently on Qiming, flickering with intrigue. After the previous suggestion from Wang Li, his heart stirred for the first time. Indeed, under the pressure from the heavenly dragon's son, Qiu Yu stood rooted in place, aware that this individual was a formidable being from the outside world. Oh, young master, do you wish to challenge me? Gu Yuan's eyes narrowed as he scrutinized the heavenly dragon's son. In an instant, an overwhelming aura enveloped the hall, revealing Gu Yuan's peak strength at the 9th level of the divine palace realm. A roar akin to a dragon's resounded throughout the chamber, causing the heavenly dragon's son's expression to shift. A golden dragon materialized from his brow to counteract the pressure. His gaze flickered, lost in contemplation. After a prolonged silence, he sighed. Very well. The heavenly dragon's son's aura dissipated, and he returned to his seat, followed by Long Xingyun, whose demeanor was grave as he gazed forward. Gu Yuan, being a peak expert of the divine palace realm, rendered them no match. Provoking him here could jeopardize their chances, despite the ability to leave the Tianyi secret realm by shattering their tokens. After careful consideration, the heavenly dragon's son subdued his inner turmoil. Gu Yuan, observing the heavenly dragon's son take his seat, nodded in satisfaction before turning to Feng Zhiyue. Goddess, will you still cling to your misconceptions? Feng Zhiyue's expression soured dramatically, her chest heaving with barely contained fury. A fire ignited within her heart, for Gu Yuan was the strongest in this place, and they were powerless to oppose him. Yet, a resolute determination flickered in her eyes. This person cannot be harmed. Feng Zhiyu's aura grew chillingly intense. Flames enveloping her form as a magnificent divine phoenix emerged behind her. The onlookers gazed at Feng Zhiyu in astonishment. It was understandable for the heavenly dragon's son to act, as any man would find it hard to resist beauty. But why was Feng Zhiyu reacting in such a manner? Could it be that she too harbored affections for women? Oh, you intend to strike at me? Gu Yuan's surprise was palpable as a terrifying aura surged from within him, causing the divine phoenix to emit a mournful cry. Boom! A surge of energy swept in, causing Feng Zhiyue's figure to be hurled violently against the wall of the grand hall. How audacious! To dare lay hands upon the divine lady. The disciples of the Fire Phoenix Valley were taken aback, swiftly invoking their most formidable techniques to shield Feng Zhiyue behind them. This is merely a lesson. Considering you are an extraordinary heir, I shall spare your life. Otherwise, I would not hesitate to retain every one of you within my lord's castle. Gu Yuan scoffed. His gaze icy. The esteemed individuals present were visibly shaken by his words. Although Gu Yuan's cultivation reached the 9th level of the Divine Palace realm, a mere flick of a finger could obliterate him in the face of extraordinary powers. His brazen threat towards the disciples of the Fire Phoenix Valley was perilous. Should the old phoenix of the valley learn of this, even 10 lives would not suffice for his reckoning. The disciples of the Fire Phoenix Valley were incensed. Never before had anyone dared to threaten them in such a manner. As offspring of an extraordinary lineage, they were accustomed to reverence wherever they went. Yet now a mere figure of the Divine Palace realm dared to proclaim intentions of detaining them all. Indeed, none present could rival his cultivation level. Yet this did not deter Feng Zhiyue. Rising to her feet, she wiped the blood from her lips and spoke with a chilling detachment. If that is the case, will you not step aside? Are you intent on forcing my hand? Gu Yuan's voice was frigid. A towering aura of murderous intent erupted within the hall. Qi Ming was a person he cherished. Should he be compelled to act, even if she were a divine lady, he would not hesitate to take action against her. Her beauty rivaled that of Qi Ming. In this realm, none can contend with you, but the outside world is another matter. Should you dare to harm her, my family's extraordinary ancestor will undoubtedly descend to seek an explanation. Feng Zhiyue brandished a token in her palm. All present were struck with astonishment. Even Gu Yuan was taken aback. She intended to shatter the token and return to the outside world. Chapter 70. Reunion. The elite individuals in attendance gazed in shock at this spectacle. Who exactly is Qi Ming to Feng Zhiyue to invoke such a response from her? For her sake, she would forsake the opportunities within the Tiani secret realm and return to the outside world. Gu Yuan's expression shifted. If Feng Zhiyue truly intended to summon her extraordinary ancestor, matters would become troublesome. The extraordinary beings were unfathomably powerful, with capabilities beyond comprehension. Even across realms, they likely possessed means to deal with him, especially now that the Tiani secret realm was opening. Attempting to return to the outside world, Gu Yuan snorted disdainfully, and his figure vanished from sight. Feng Zhiyue's countenance changed as she desperately sought to shatter the token, but Gu Yuan had already materialized beside her. Snatching the token from her grasp, everyone's expression changed dramatically. Did Gu Yuan intend to slay the Phoenix Divine Lady? Even the celestial dragon Prince rose, his expression grave. Meanwhile, the other elites prepared their tokens, ready to shatter them at a moment's notice. In the face of such a formidable adversary as Gu Yuan, their only recourse was to flee. Rest assured, I shall not harm you. However, you cannot impede my marriage, and afterward, I will allow you to leave. Gu Yuan extended his hand, and instantly, Feng Zhiyue's entire spiritual energy was sealed. The disciples of Fire Phoenix Valley changed their expressions, ready to shatter their tokens. Just then, a howling wind swept in from outside the hall, flinging the doors wide open. At the entrance stood a figure clad in white, his demeanor somewhat agitated as he gazed intently into the depths of the hall at the bride in red. I have searched for you in vain. The figure in white murmured, his lips trembling slightly, fists clenched in excitement. Indeed, Yin Bei had arrived. He had scoured the city in search of Qi Ming, yet her presence eluded him. It was only when a powerful energy fluctuation emanated from the city lord's residence that he recalled he had yet to investigate there. Thus, he made his way to this location. Upon entering, he beheld the figure who had haunted his dreams. All eyes turned towards him. The indigenous people of this realm regarded him with curiosity, unaware of his identity. However, the outstanding individuals from beyond the realm shifted their expressions. He had come. Many felt a jolt of recognition as they turned their gazes upon the figure in white. That night, the indomitable presence of this figure flashed in their minds. Once a nameless contender, he had stood undeterred before countless prodigies, overpowering even the champions of the dominant fist sect with his audacity. Now he had returned, Everyone understood that Qi Ming was his beloved. How furious would this wild spirit be upon seeing his partner on the verge of becoming another's bride? What would he do? All eyes were riveted on Yin Bei. "It's you," Gu Yuan exclaimed upon spotting Yin Bei at the entrance. Although he had burned the painting, the moment Yin Bei appeared, Gu Yuan instantly recognized him. Meanwhile, Qi Ming, standing nearby, trembled as if she sensed the identity of the newcomer. Do not underestimate him. He is a formidable foe at the pinnacle of the 9th layer of the Divine Palace realm. Feng Zhiyu cautioned Yin Bei. Simultaneously, everyone noticed something peculiar. Yin Bei had yet to open his eyes. Was this a sign of disdain towards Gu Yuan? They were unaware of Yin Bei's current condition. He remained silent, slowly making his way toward Qi Ming. At this moment, the assembly was engulfed in shock. Even the dragon goddess Sun and Feng Zhiyu gaped in astonishment. Yin Bei moved deliberately, his eyes tightly shut. His left leg had not fully healed, causing him to walk with a noticeable limp. His leg? He was limping? Not only his leg, but it appeared that his eyes were also troubled. The crowd stared, stunned by the sight before them. Even as Yin Bei limped past them, disbelief washed over them. The Yin Bei of that night had been a paragon of elegance. How had he transformed into a figure marked by disability? Even the dragon goddess Sun could not suppress his admiration, though he had only encountered Yin Bei once. He recognized him as perhaps the strongest opponent he had ever faced. Feng Zhiyu's beautiful eyes flickered with regret. While the female disciples of Fire Phoenix Valley gazed at Yin Bei, their expressions tinged with sympathy. That night, Yin Bei exhibited a commanding presence that captivated the hearts of numerous young ladies. Now, witnessing him in such a state, one cannot help but sigh in disappointment. Who would have thought he was merely a blind and crippled wretch? Gu Yuan stood rooted to the spot, laughing heartily, realizing that the person Qi Ming sought was indeed a disabled man. Qi Ming, facing away from the crowd, was oblivious to Yin Bei's current condition. Yet, upon hearing their remarks, her heart bled, and she nearly fainted. Get away. Yin Bei did not cast a glance at Gu Yuan, but instead fixated intently on the figure clad in red. A collective gasp echoed among the onlookers. Indeed, this madman was audacious enough to confront even a formidable being like Gu Yuan of the Divine Palace realm. Gu Yuan's jovial expression abruptly froze. "What did you say, cripple?" he exclaimed, digging into his ears, turning to face Yin Bei. However, Yin Bei disregarded him entirely and strode directly toward Qi Ming. Witnessing this scene, Gu Yuan was instantly consumed by rage. "You seek death." He thrust his palm toward Yin Bei. Yet, to everyone's astonishment, Yin Bei's figure suddenly blurred, reappearing right before Qi Ming. "At last, I have found you." Despite his eyes remaining closed, all present could sense the joy emanating from him. He extended a finger, touching Qi Ming, and the seals binding her were instantly dissolved. "Yin Bei, your leg?" Free from constraints, Qi Ming lunged into Yin Bei's embrace, her voice choked with emotion. She was aware that he could not open his eyes, but how had his leg come to be in such a state? Seeing Yin Bei like this filled her with profound sorrow. "It's all right, my leg will heal in due time." Yin Bei gently ruffled her hair, finally revealing a smile. Upon hearing his words, Qi Ming's anxious heart eased significantly. However, her expression shifted as she glanced at her red attire. "Yin Bei, it's not what you think. I never intended to marry him. He forced me into this." In such a scenario, it was inevitable for Yin Bei to harbor doubts. "I believe you, of course." Yin Bei pulled Qi Ming tightly into his embrace, though his countenance began to darken. Suddenly, a voice, as delicate as a mosquito, reached Yin Bei's ears. "Except for you. No one else has touched me." Qi Ming blushed deeply in his arms, whispering softly. Upon hearing this, the gloom that clouded Yin Bei's brow seemed to dissipate in an instant. "Silly girl." Just as Yin Bei was about to continue conversing with Qi Ming, a furious voice rang out. "Enough." Gu Yuan, seething with anger, glared at the scene before him. His fiancée, he was openly embracing another in front of a crowd. What was the meaning of this? If word got out, it would utterly tarnish his reputation as the Lord of Goose City. Gu Yuan transformed into a mere shadow, vanishing from sight, and his massive hand came crashing down toward Yin Bei. "Be careful." Feng Zhiyu gasped in alarm, shouting a warning to Yin Bei. Yet, it appeared as though he possessed eyes in the back of his head. Yin Bei and Qi Ming's figures trembled and instantaneously vanished from their original positions, reappearing in the center of the grand hall. Boom! Gu Yuan struck the air with his palm, unleashing a force that created a massive hole in the ground. He was momentarily taken aback, his gaze filled with confusion. "You, the cripple, run surprisingly fast." At this moment, in the center of the hall, Yin Bei's previously radiant smile had transformed into an expression of utter indifference, a chilling aura rising from beneath everyone's feet. "Release my wife, you wretched cripple, or I shall leave you in pieces." Gu Yuan's face flushed with rage, the color deepening with his fury. Qi Ming was the woman he had coveted. And now she found herself in another's embrace, a sight that nearly drove him to madness. Your wife? A cold smile crept across Yanbei's lips, a faint yet palpable pressure emanating from him. Indeed, young man, I advise you to relinquish the city lord's wife quickly, or you shall not escape our wrath. Several native inhabitants of the ancient city rose, casting icy glares at Yanbei. Not courteous? Then let me witness how you intend to be discourteous. Yanbei's expression suddenly turned frigid, and he raised his hand to strike at those who had just spoken. Boom! A beam of golden light erupted within the hall. The natives who had spoken were instantly slain, their bodies crushed by a resplendent golden hand, reducing them to a pool of flesh. Such a scene left all the gathered prodigies in utter shock. Among those natives were formidable warriors, including a general at the first level of the Divine Palace realm. Yet even so, they were effortlessly subdued by Yanbei's strike. The heavenly dragon son's expression shifted. Although he possessed enough power to slay that general, he would never do so with the ease displayed by Yanbei. Feng Zhiyu's beautiful eyes flickered with astonishment, her gaze continuously appraising Yanbei. Ah! Gu Yuan suddenly screamed, his expression filled with unbridled fury. Yanbei's attack had caught even him off guard. All the natives present at the banquet were his trusted confidants. And now, to see them slain by a single blow ignited his rage. You shall accompany them in death. Gu Yuan roared, transforming into a blur as he charged toward Yanbei's position. Die! A terrifying surge of energy erupted from his fist. Yanbei remained unmoved, his demeanor chillingly composed. Boom! In an instant, Yanbei made his move. He pointed, and a phantom of a towering finger emerged behind him, entwined with boundless laws of the universe, shaking the heavens and earth as it pressed down upon Gu Yuan. Instantly, the very space within the grand hall seemed to be confined. Even Gu Yuan felt a tremor in his heart, an ominous premonition washing over him. He hastily evaded, unwilling to confront this towering finger directly. As Gu Yuan dodged, the finger struck the wall of the hall with immense force. Boom! The sound echoed like the collapse of the heavens, followed by a violent tremor that shook the ground. The entire grand hall crumbled, reduced to ruins. The prodigious disciples hastily summoned their light shields and fled into the distance. Goddess! The disciples of the Fire Phoenix Valley were suddenly struck with alarm. With the divine maiden's powers sealed by Gu Yuan, she was utterly defenseless in this dire situation. They hastily led Feng Zhiyue in their flight. However, while the disciples could manage to protect themselves under these circumstances, carrying another person posed a significant risk. Be careful! Qi Ming exclaimed, her voice laced with urgency. A massive pillar was hurtling toward the disciple who was carrying Feng Zhiyue. With Qi Ming's warning, the disciples of Fire Phoenix Valley swiftly turned to the side, their faces paling in horror. There was no place left for her to evade. She could only watch helplessly as the colossal pillar descended upon her. Feng Zhiyue's expression shifted. Was she truly to perish here? How absurd it would be for a transcendent divine maiden to meet her end beneath a mere pillar. Yanbei seemed to sense something amiss, furrowing his brow. He extended a finger and unleashed a gust of energy that instantly propelled toward Feng Zhiyue. Suddenly, a piercing cry echoed through the air, and a fiery red divine phoenix apparition materialized behind Feng Zhiyue, enveloping her and the female disciple within its protective wings. At that moment, dust and debris swirled around them, as the Lord's grand hall crumbled into ruins. In the void above, two figures stood silently. Yanbei, hands clasped behind his back, gazed coldly downward, where two beams of crimson light erupted from the wreckage, Feng Zhiyue and the disciple from Fire Phoenix Valley. Upon seeing Feng Zhiyue emerge, the other disciples visibly relaxed. The prior moment had been perilously tense. Had the divine maiden truly perished, their own fates would have been sealed as well. Thank you for your timely rescue, Feng Zhiyue said as she descended beside Yanbei, her expression filled with gratitude as she clasped her hands in respect. She had not anticipated the terrifying aftermath of the battle between Yanbei and Gu Yuan. Had Yanbei not released the seal within her at such a critical juncture, she would have been buried beneath the ruins. Not at all. I must also express my gratitude to the divine maiden for saving my wife, Yanbei replied, shaking his head appreciatively. He had witnessed Feng Zhiyue engaged in combat with Gu Yuan and had acted to save Qi Ming. Qi Ming's cheeks flushed instantly as she turned to Yanbei. Wife? He had referred to her as such in front of others? Just then, a furious voice pierced the air. You wretched cripple, you have truly enraged me. I shall extract your soul to light the heavens. Gu Yuan emerged, his figure covered in dust, looking disheveled. Wait here, Yanbei instructed Qi Ming, turning his head to her. Be careful, she cautioned, reassured by Yanbei's strength, even in the face of a formidable adversary like Gu Yuan. Understood. Yanbei nodded and transformed into a streak of light, darting toward Gu Yuan. Seeking death, Gu Yuan bellowed, charging forward to meet him. To confront him head-on was a fool's errand. Suddenly, a frigid voice echoed in Gu Yuan's ears. God Palace Realm? You are not the only one. Boom. A sudden and terrifying pressure enveloped the heavens and the earth, as an overwhelming aura erupted from Yin Bei. Chapter 72. Who claims invincibility? Who dares to proclaim unbeaten? How could this be? Sensing this formidable presence, Gu Yuan's expression shifted slightly as he clenched his fists, exerting even more strength. The two figures collided like meteors streaking across the night sky. Boom. The dark sky instantly illuminated as if it were day, the brilliant light brightening the entire ancient city. Following this, a dreadful explosion echoed from the void. A figure was hurled from the center of the explosion. It was Gu Yuan, the heavenly dragon's son, his face etched with shock, spoke, his palms slightly sweating and his body trembling. Hearing his words, the other prodigies displayed expressions of horror. The one sent flying from their fierce exchange was Gu Yuan. Wasn't he a peak 9th layer expert of the Divine Palace realm? As the radiance from the explosion faded, it became evident that only Yin Bei remained in place, while Gu Yuan had already been blasted away. At this moment, everyone was moved, their eyes filled with astonishment as they gazed at Yin Bei. How could Gu Yuan, a figure of such strength, not stand against him? What cultivation level did Yin Bei truly possess? Just then, Gu Yuan flew back, his face reflecting his shock as he beheld Yin Bei, who emanated an extraordinarily powerful aura, causing even him to feel a twinge of trepidation. Suddenly, with a resounding boom, an awe-inspiring force erupted from Yin Bei, who no longer concealed his cultivation. He summoned the full extent of his internal power. As the overwhelming aura radiating from Yin Bei enveloped the surroundings, everyone revealed expressions of terror. This presence was fearsome beyond compare. It was on par with Gu Yuan, perhaps even overpowering him. What is your cultivation level? Gu Yuan stammered, still incredulous. Those who entered this realm were typically young prodigies under the age of 25. To reach such a level before turning 25, what manner of person was he? Realizing this, Gu Yuan felt a deep sense of alarm, aware that he had truly encountered a formidable opponent. The prodigies gazed at Yin Bei in astonishment, speculating about his identity. Before heading to Tianyi City, they had never heard of anyone named Yin Bei from the eastern region. Their first meeting was at the banquet in the Lord's mansion, where he gained notoriety after defeating Wang Li. Yet, many still regarded him with disdain, believing themselves to be superior. However, at this moment, the aura he displayed was comparable to that of their ancestors, perhaps even stronger. Was he a monster? A peak 9th layer expert of the Divine Palace realm at just 25 years old? My apologies for the previous offense. Let us put this matter to rest, otherwise, it would be detrimental for both of us. Upon realizing Yin Bei's cultivation level, Gu Yuan immediately altered his demeanor, bowing deeply and addressing Yin Bei with a serious tone. Recognizing that the other was his equal in strength, he refrained from boasting. Gu Yuan had spent nearly a millennium within the Tianyi secret realm to attain his current level of cultivation. Suddenly, a figure of comparable prowess emerged, instilling in him a profound sense of threat. He was reluctant to engage in a fierce confrontation. After merely exchanging a couple of blows, he discerned that the opponent's strength was immensely formidable, perhaps even surpassing his own, thus igniting a spark of fear within him, prompting him to seek a resolution. Once this secret realm closed, he would still be the mightiest entity in this world. You seem to have calculated well. Wishing to dominate again after my departure from this realm? A cold smile crept across Yin Bei's lips. Gu Yuan's expression darkened. His innermost thoughts had been laid bare, rendering his countenance quite grim. We are both at the 9th level of the Divine Palace. Continuing this battle would only lead to mutual destruction. It would be wiser to cease hostilities, and you may take Qi Meng with you. Gu Yuan forced himself to speak again. In the face of his own peril, even the enchanting Qi Meng, a paragon of beauty, was not enough to sway his resolve. He relinquished her without hesitation. Yin Bei stood firm, a sneer adorning his face. What do you mean? Gu Yuan's expression was one of distress. He had never found himself in such a position of humility, and today, it was beginning to erode his pride. Yin Bei loomed in the heavens, exuding an aura of unfathomable terror, as if he could rend the very fabric of existence. It is laughable that a petty wretch like you dares to rule over a domain. Even if I were to slaughter countless souls today, the world shall know, none shall lay a hand on my people. At that moment, he transformed into a war deity, radiating an overwhelming battle intent. No one could hinder him. Words are unnecessary. Come forth and fight. Yin Bei struck first. He raised his hand, summoning an immense palm that descended upon Gu Yuan, as if the sun, moon, and stars themselves were revolving within it. Simply casting forth a single orb could yield boulders of thousands of meters, an unfathomable terror. Gu Yuan's complexion shifted dramatically. In a mere few breaths, he found himself in dire straits. It felt as though he confronted not a peer, but a being of transcendent realms. With a swift motion, Yen Bei conjured an illusory star and hurled it towards Gu Yuan. Caught off guard, Gu Yuan had no time to defend himself and was struck by the celestial body. Blood erupted from his mouth, and his breath became erratic, his visage paling significantly. Stunned, Gu Yuan could hardly fathom that he, at the pinnacle of the divine palace, could not withstand even a single strike from his adversary. How is this possible? In this realm, my 9th-level pinnacle is invincible. Gu Yuan bellowed, disbelief etched across his face. Invincible? Who dares to claim invincibility? Who proclaims themselves undefeated? Yen Bei's cold laughter rang out, as a surge of thunder crackled in his grasp, only to dissipate like fleeting fireworks. Upon hearing these words, an inexplicable tremor coursed through the hearts of all present. Who dares to claim invincibility? Who proclaims themselves undefeated? Such a seemingly light phrase struck like a thunderclap in the hearts of the gathered crowd. The expressions of the celestial dragon's son and other prodigies paled, their resolve cracking under the weight of his words. They had all considered themselves invincible young champions. Yet, upon hearing Yen Bei's assertion, doubts began to fester regarding their own powers. What truly constitutes invincibility? What defines the undefeated? Boom. Die. Gu Yuan raised his voice to the heavens, summoning forth an overwhelming force that shook the very foundations of the earth. An indescribable power, reminiscent of divine majesty, surged forth as if to subdue the skies themselves. He propelled this terrifying energy towards Yen Bei, obliterating the illusory stars into mere dust, creating a scene akin to the end of the world. Just you, Yen Bei roared, his expression icy, as golden light surged around him, launching a fist towards Gu Long. At that moment, the heavens and the earth shifted in hue. A colossal imprint of his punch reverberated through the air, the blinding golden radiance illuminating the entire realm, enveloping the ancient city in its brilliance. With a thunderous crash, akin to the collapse of heaven and earth, the sound echoed through the skies, forcing many to cover their ears, though several still spat blood from the sheer shock. As the intense golden light dissipated, all eyes turned towards the sky, their pupils dilating in disbelief. At that moment, a solitary figure stood aloft in the heavens. A lifeless body draped over his arm, with droplets of crimson blood cascading from the void. Chapter 73. The dread of the ancient city in the ancient city. Whether it was the lofty prodigies suspended in the air or the crowd on the ground, all gazed in horror towards the firmament. Each drop of blood that fell felt as heavy as lead, striking terror into the hearts of the onlookers. Someone swallowed hard, their face pale as a ghost. In the sky, a figure clad in white loomed like a mountain, suffocating all beneath his presence. Gu Yuan was dead. The crowd, trembling and fearful, whispered in disbelief. The formidable Gu Yuan, a peak expert at the 9th level of the divine palace realm, had perished. His body had been pierced through, his heart reduced to a mist of blood, dead beyond resurrection. Yen Bei, standing above the heavens, held Gu Yuan's corpse, and with a swift motion of his right arm, he shattered it into dust. The dragon's son and others gazed in astonishment at the scene unfolding above, utterly unprepared for the reality that Gu Yuan had indeed been slain. And by such a fierce display of might, Yen Bei's countenance was devoid of emotion, as if the death of Gu Yuan stirred little within him. He raised his hand, conjuring a magnificent golden hand in the void, which he then brought crashing down. Boom. The entire lord's estate was instantly flattened, leaving behind an enormous handprint upon the ground. As Yen Bei surveyed his surroundings, though his eyes were closed, each person present felt as if a pair of terrifying eyes were scrutinizing them, imbued with profound warnings. This act was a dire warning to all. His people were untouchable. Gu Yuan's demise was a consequence of his own actions. Those from the ancient city seeking vengeance for him may step forward. He would accept them all. Yen Bei's voice resonated like thunder, echoing in the ears of all present. His aura emanated an overwhelming pressure, enveloping the entire ancient city in its suffocating embrace. The ancient city and the vast sky were enveloped in a profound silence, as no one dared to be the first to step forward. The powerful figures from the ancient families gazed in astonishment at the heavens. Although Gu Yuan had aided them in the past, who would dare to emerge now? Even Gu Yuan, at the pinnacle of the divine palace realm, had been forcefully subdued by this young man. To appear now would be tantamount to seeking death. Not a soul in the ancient city had the courage to take a stand. Yen Bei stood in the void, waiting for a moment. When he saw that no one in the ancient city was willing to step forward, he let out a cold snort. At that moment, Qi Ming arrived beside him, accompanied by Feng Zhiyu. Upon their arrival, Yen Bei reined in his aura and, with a respectful gesture, addressed Feng Zhiyu, expressing his gratitude. He had been too preoccupied to consider anything else, for the aftermath of his battle with Gu Yuan was extraordinarily powerful, something Qi Ming could not withstand. Fortunately, Feng Zhiyu had intervened at a critical moment, sparing Qi Ming from any harm. Fear not. Even without your reminder, I would ensure Qi Ming's safety. Feng Zhiyu replied with a gentle smile. As a transcendent goddess, she felt no trepidation regarding Yan Bei's current cultivation level. Yan Bei smiled faintly, yet a deep sense of perplexity lingered in his heart. Why was Feng Zhiyu so exceedingly kind to Qi Ming? She had even forsaken opportunities in the Tian-Yi secret realm to oppose Gu Yuan, going so far as to summon the transcendent ancestors. What was it about Qi Ming that captivated her? Beauty? Yet, Feng Zhiyu herself was a woman of striking beauty, rivaling Qi Ming. This reasoning seemed inadequate. Your Highness, why do you care so much for Qi Ming? Yan Bei inquired, furrowing his brow as he gazed intently at Feng Zhiyu. Unable to suppress his curiosity, he posed the question directly, wary of any ulterior motives she might harbor. Qi Ming, momentarily taken aback, was unsure why Yan Bei had suddenly asked such a question. She sensed that the goddess harbored no ill intentions towards her. Upon hearing Yan Bei's inquiry, a flicker of struggle appeared in Feng Zhiyu's beautiful eyes as she contemplated whether to divulge the truth. Yet, witnessing Qi Ming's unwavering dependence on Yan Bei, she sighed softly. This is not the place for discussion. Follow me, she instructed, glancing at the crowd that was casting curious glances in their direction. Before turning and soaring towards the outskirts of the city, Yan Bei furrowed his brow even more tightly, yet he resolved to uncover the truth. For the uncertainty weighed heavily on his mind. He wrapped his arm around Qi Ming's waist and transformed into a streak of lightning, propelling himself into the air in pursuit of Feng Zhiyu's figure. As the prodigies hovering above the ancient city observed Yan Bei's departure, they turned their gazes to the ruins beneath them. The events of the day had utterly shattered their understanding. Could there truly be such a young powerhouse in the divine palace realm? They cast their eyes towards the heavenly dragon sun, for even he, despite being a transcendent figure, was only at the pinnacle of the primordial spirit realm at this moment, an elevation attained only after entering the Tian-Yi secret realm and seizing certain fortuitous opportunities. The heavenly dragon sun's expression grew somewhat unnatural. Now under scrutiny from the crowd, he found it difficult to speak, for his cultivation indeed paled in comparison to Yan Bei's. Let us depart, he finally said. The heavenly dragon sun spoke solemnly to Long Xingyun, then swiftly vanished from the spot, with Long Xingyun closely following. In the blink of an eye, the distinguished figures who had come to the ancient city dispersed in all directions. The inhabitants of the city, witnessing the departure of these formidable beings from beyond the realm, finally exhaled in relief. Without the lord of the city to instill fear, they were left in a state of anxiety, dreading that one among them might unleash a murderous intent and wreak havoc upon the city. Such occurrences were not unheard of in the past. By the Moon Lake, a serene moonlight cast its reflection upon the tranquil waters. Beside the lake stood a small pavilion, where 3 individuals were gathered, admiring the enchanting scenery under the moonlight. Your Highness, if you have something to say, do not hesitate. No one can overhear us now, Yan Bei remarked, turning to Feng Zhiyu. He held a modicum of affection for her, as she had once acted nobly on behalf of Qi Ming. With a slight sigh, Feng Zhiyu resolved to reveal her thoughts without reservation. Have you heard of the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land? The gravity in her gaze indicated that what she was about to disclose was of utmost importance. The Phoenix Feather Sacred Land? I'm afraid I have not, Yan Bei replied, his lips twitching as he shook his head. Although he was aware that such a response might be considered impolite, he answered truthfully. After all, he had never come across the name of the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land. It seemed that no such power existed within the entire Eastern Domain. Chapter 74. The Phoenix Feather Sacred Land. Feng Zhiyu's previously solemn expression faltered in disbelief. How could you not have heard of it? Are you even from the Eastern Domain? Her beautiful eyes widened, her disbelief palpable as she leaned closer to Yan Bei. He instinctively took a step back, surprised by her intense reaction. It is impossible for anyone from the Eastern Domain to be unaware of the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land. Feng Zhiyu's gaze bore a peculiar intensity, leaving her to wonder if he truly belonged to their realm. At that moment, Qi Ming, who had been standing between the two, interjected, the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land. I know of it. I have seen references in the sect's records. The sect's records? Yan Bei scratched his head, puzzled as he had never perused such documents. Feng Zhiyu shot him a provocative glance, clearly implying that a grown man should possess more knowledge than a young girl. The sect's records detail that the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land was a realm-level power 1,000 years ago, brimming with formidable beings, with dozens of extraordinary experts, and even a presence at the Saint King level. In that era, the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land was the pinnacle of power in the Eastern Domain, and none dared to challenge it. Qi Ming recounted the intricate details from the Qingyun sect's records. A realm-level power, dozens of extraordinary experts, and a Saint King presence. Even Yan Bei could not help but be astonished, realizing the sheer terror of the phoenix feather's sacred land. At that moment, a single extraordinary expert from the Eastern Domain could establish a powerful faction, surpassing all sections. Yet, the phoenix feather sacred land had dozens of such experts. Not to mention the existence of a Saint King. Such an entity was beyond Yin Bei's imagination, and it was likely that none existed in the Eastern Domain today. Feng Zhiyue cast a satisfied glance at Qi Ming, as if the words had struck a chord within her. However, she questioned, what does the phoenix feather sacred land signify? Are you not from the Fire Phoenix Valley? Yanbei looked at Feng Zhiyue with confusion. What could this woman's veneration for the phoenix feather sacred land imply? Was she contemplating a betrayal of her sect? I am indeed the goddess of the Fire Phoenix Valley, but I also belong to the phoenix feather sacred land. Feng Zhiyue replied with a hint of pride on her face. The sacred land is a place coveted by countless cultivators. To have the opportunity to cultivate there, even at the cost of one's freedom to become a servant, draws many to it like moths to a flame. The weight of Feng Zhiyue's words was not lost on Yanbei. She was both the goddess of the Fire Phoenix Valley and a denizen of the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land. What could this mean? Was it possible? Yanbei's expression turned to one of astonishment as he gazed at Feng Zhiyue. You are correct in your thoughts. The Phoenix Feather Sacred Land is indeed the predecessor of the current Fire Phoenix Valley. Feng Zhiyue's countenance grew solemn. Upon hearing this, Yanbei felt a jolt within. The Phoenix Feather Sacred Land had transformed into what is now the Fire Phoenix Valley? What had transpired during this transformation? Rumor had it that the Fire Phoenix Valley currently possessed only one extraordinary being, an aged phoenix. Yet, the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land had boasted dozens of extraordinary beings and was a sacred power with a holy king presiding over it. Feng Zhiyue observed Yanbei's expression and understood his unvoiced questions. She began to speak slowly. A millennium ago, the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land endured a cataclysm, a massacre that annihilated its lineage. As she recounted this history, her delicate fists clenched tightly, her eyes reflecting deep resentment. On that fateful day, the entire Eastern Domain was engulfed in fear. A battle of divine magnitude tore the heavens apart, causing a portion of the continent to sink. Ultimately, the holy king of the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land was defeated, impaled in the void, and the inhabitants were systematically slaughtered, leaving no survivors among the extraordinary. Fortunately, an elder was traveling abroad and thus managed to escape, later establishing the Fire Phoenix Valley. Upon hearing this, Yanbei fell into silence. He could scarcely fathom the magnitude of that battle, where dozens of extraordinary beings perished, even the holy king spilling blood in the void. What kind of formidable enemy had they encountered? What sort of existence could obliterate a flourishing sacred land in a single day, leaving no one behind? Yanbei took a deep breath. I do not comprehend the implications of your narrative, Your Highness. Are you expecting me to seek vengeance for the Fire Phoenix Valley? Yet, he quickly dismissed the thought. Although he was on the verge of breaking through to the fourth extreme, in the eyes of some, he remained but an insignificant insect. Moreover, he was no fool, swayed by a few flattering words from a woman into serving her cause. I share all this because I require your assistance, Feng Zhiyue said, turning her delicate form towards Yanbei and Qi Ming, her gaze earnest. What? At this revelation, Yanbei's expression turned icy in an instant. If that were the case, there was no longer any need for further discussion. Qi Ming, we are leaving, he declared coldly, grasping Qi Ming's hand to depart. What nonsense was this? Did she truly expect him to aid in her quest for revenge? Who could possibly pin the Holy King in the void and then request his assistance in seeking vengeance? Fortunately, Yanbei possessed remarkable composure. Otherwise, he would have spat in Feng Zhiyue's face. Wait, let me finish. Feng Zhiyu urgently interjected, her expression tense. Yanbei halted, gazing at Feng Zhiyu with a look of confusion. Was this girl out of her mind? She needed Qi Ming's assistance? With Qi Ming's formidable cultivation at the Thunder Tribulation realm and her origins in the Qingyan sect, what could she possibly offer? Was this a jest? Even Qi Ming appeared utterly astonished. She had presumed Feng Zhiyue's lengthy discourse was merely a preamble to inviting her to accompany them to the Fire Phoenix Valley. Little did she expect that the target of her request would be none other than herself. Me? Qi Ming queried, incredulously pointing to herself. Yes, only you can aid us. Feng Zhiyu replied earnestly, her gaze fixed on Qi Ming. Yanbei was utterly flabbergasted. She had genuinely come for Qi Ming. This left him bewildered. Only Qi Ming could assist the Fire Phoenix Valley in its resurgence. As she spoke, Feng Zhiyu produced a sky-blue insignia from her bosom. The moment the insignia manifested, a chilling wave of frost surged forth, instantly freezing the entire moon lake. Yanbei's expression shifted dramatically, swiftly retreating with Qi Ming. The insignia was hurtling towards Qi Ming's direction. The lake had transformed into solid ice. If that object made contact, would she not be rendered into a mere popsicle? Yanbei, wait. Qi Ming suddenly spoke. Upon the insignia's appearance, her internal spiritual energy had inexplicably begun to flow more smoothly. Closing her eyes, she concentrated. And after a lengthy pause, bang! With a resonant sound, Qi Ming's cultivation began to ascend dramatically. Thunder Tribulation 4th level, 5th level, 6th level, 7th level. It soared to the pinnacle of the Thunder Tribulation 7th level before ceasing. This spectacle left Yin Bei profoundly astonished. Had it not been for the presence of the tomato within his consciousness, he might have believed Qi Ming had somehow absorbed a century's worth of cultivation through a signing system. Chapter 75. Ice Phoenix, Ice Soul Profound Body. What unfolded before him surpassed Yin Bei's comprehension. What was this sky-blue insignia? Why had Qi Ming's cultivation experienced such an abrupt surge? Qi Ming slowly opened her eyes. Her aura now exuding an even colder essence, her pupils tinged with a hint of sky blue. She reached out to touch the insignia. Witnessing this, Yin Bei swiftly intervened. Don't touch it. It's dangerous, he warned sternly. Qi Ming turned, smiling at Yin Bei. It's all right. I can sense it means no harm. Yin Bei furrowed his brow, poised to act at a moment's notice, but the next scene left him even more astounded. The instant Qi Ming's fingertip made contact with the insignia, a piercing sound erupted from it, followed by the emergence of a crystalline phoenix apparition soaring forth. It was an ice phoenix. At that moment, it spiraled in the void, its eyes seemingly imbued with spiritual essence, surveying everyone present. Junior, Feng Zhiyu pays her respects to the esteemed Ice Phoenix. The moment Feng Zhiyu beheld the Ice Phoenix, she immediately knelt and clasped her hands in reverence, promptly manifesting her fiery phoenix apparition. Oh, the legacy of the Fire Phoenix, who would have thought it would reside within a woman? The Ice Phoenix spoke, its voice enchanting yet as chilling as the winter's gale, instilling a shiver of trepidation. I am grateful for the lack of disdain for my master, Feng Zhiyu replied with a faint smile. Pray, what summons me from slumber? Could it be that those miscreants have returned? The Ice Phoenix inquired with an indifferent tone, enveloping the area in an icy aura that nearly froze Yin Bei in place. Yin Bei stared in horror at the Ice Phoenix before him. If his intuition served him right, this being's cultivation was at least extraordinary, perhaps even beyond. Senior, please quell your wrath. No one seeks trouble. Rather, I have discovered an individual who might pique your interest, Feng Zhiyu said urgently, glancing toward Qi Ming. The Ice Phoenix's gaze followed Feng Zhiyu's, landing on Qi Ming, who elicited a soft gasp. Then it turned to Yin Bei beside her. Suddenly, Yin Bei's expression shifted dramatically. For reasons unknown, he felt an indescribable pressure bearing down upon him, as if he were a solitary boat adrift on a tempestuous sea, on the verge of capsizing. Do not harm him. Qi Ming, seeing Yin Bei's agony, summoned an unexpected courage and stepped in front of him. Step aside, Yin Bei exclaimed, pushing Qi Ming to the side. The pressure was poised to crush her. However, after Qi Ming briefly shielded him, that terrifying aura vanished, and the atmosphere returned to normal. Indeed, at such a tender age, to be on the cusp of the four realms, with a resolute mind, commendable, the Ice Phoenix's voice resonated from above, praising Yin Bei. On the cusp of the four realms. The moment Feng Zhiyu heard this, despite her prior preparation, she was nonetheless taken aback. Yin Bei's cultivation was astonishingly formidable. A full realm above her own. Thank you, esteemed senior. Yin Bei expressed his gratitude, bowing to the Ice Phoenix. His left leg, having regained circulation under the pressure, was on the path to recovery. In due time, he would shatter the barriers of the four realms. The Ice Phoenix nodded, then shifted its gaze back to Qi Ming. The Ice Soul Profound Body. I did not anticipate its presence here. Aside from Feng Zhiyu, both Qi Ming and Yin Bei appeared perplexed. Ice Soul Profound Body. What is that? They wondered. Could it possibly be akin to their own chaotic body? The Ice Soul Profound Body, one of the 100 strongest physiques in existence, possesses an ice bloodline, allowing for unparalleled mastery of ice techniques. Once activated, it is impervious to cold. In its perfected form, it can freeze vast expanses of land in an instant, encasing the world in ice. At that moment, the voice of the tomato echoed in Yin Bei's mind. This was the first time it had spoken up on its own. How do you know this? Yin Bei queried in astonishment, addressing his inner consciousness. This system possesses knowledge of the heavens above and the earth below, even to the extent that the ancient tomato speaks tirelessly within the sea of consciousness. Upon hearing this, Yin Bei hastily severed the connection, realizing that this individual could lecture for days and nights, and he had no time to indulge in such nonsense. Am I truly the ice spirit body? Qi Ming questioned incredulously, for throughout her life, apart from her beauty, she had never felt different in any significant way. Indeed, the ice spirit body is exceedingly rare. Do you wish to become my disciple? Ice Phoenix descended gracefully outside the pavilion, her gaze fixed upon Qi Ming. Become your disciple? Qi Ming could hardly believe her ears. Although this ice phoenix was merely a phantasmal spirit, she could sense the cataclysmic power contained within it. You would have me as your apprentice? Yes. If you pledge yourself to me, I shall ensure your ascendance to the saint level. The voice of Ice Phoenix resonated with an authoritative grandeur. Saint level? Qi Ming lacked a clear understanding of this concept. However, Yin Bei and Feng Zhiyu were visibly shaken. Feng Zhiyu gazed at Qi Ming with envy. When she received the Fire Phoenix's inheritance, she was not granted such lofty praise. At that time, the Fire Phoenix merely promised her entry into the extraordinary realm. Though possessing the fire spirit body was indeed rare, it did not rank among the top 100 bodies in the world. Yin Bei, on the other hand, was internally astounded. The saint level was his aspiration, a realm he yearned to attain one day. Will you accept me as your mentor? Ice Phoenix inquired once more, addressing Qi Ming. With a hesitant expression, Qi Ming struggled for a moment before shaking her head. I appreciate your kind offer, Ice Phoenix, but I have no desire to become your disciple. At this moment, not only Ice Phoenix, but even Feng Zhiyu and Yin Bei stood in disbelief. Qi Ming had actually refused Ice Phoenix? To attain the saint level was the dream of countless cultivators. It was astonishing that Qi Ming, after a brief moment of contemplation, had directly declined. Even Yin Bei questioned whether he could have done the same. Oh, why? Ice Phoenix seemed genuinely surprised, posing the question. Qi Ming stood firm, reaching for Yin Bei's hand. I simply wish to be with him. Upon hearing this, Feng Zhiyu was rendered speechless. Yin Bei, momentarily taken aback, soon broke into a smile. Silly girl. Just then, a chilling wave surged forth, and Ice Phoenix was enraged. This is utterly absurd. She had assumed Qi Ming's refusal stemmed from other reasons. But it was indeed due to matters of the heart. With a powerful flap of her wings, Ice Phoenix soared into the sky, her terrifying aura tearing through the fabric of reality, freezing all living beings within a 1,000-mile radius as snowflakes began to fall from the heavens. Chapter 76. The great Tao roars above the moon lake. Ice Phoenix spread her wings, snowflakes cascading down as the bone-chilling cold enveloped the area. Yin Bei's expression changed instantly. Ice Phoenix's wrath was not to be trifled with. Such a being was beyond his current capabilities to confront. Please calm your anger, senior. Feng Zhiyu exclaimed, her countenance shifting in alarm. Humph. A frigid snort echoed from above, and at that moment, the entire world seemed to plunge into an extreme chill. As Ice Phoenix circled in the sky, her presence overwhelming the very fabric of existence. For the sake of personal desires for their children, one would forsake the grand path. How utterly foolish. The Ice Phoenix alighted upon the moon lake, her wings quivering slightly, perhaps in agitation. Ynbi's expression darkened instantaneously. Esteemed elder, your words are rather inappropriate, are they not? The Ice Phoenix's gaze swiftly turned towards him, infused with an aura that could freeze all things. Instantly, I was enveloped in frost, as if on the verge of being encased in ice. Hu Ming stood nearby, her face etched with anxiety. She had not anticipated such a strong reaction from the Ice Phoenix after her refusal. However, it seemed that the icy winds had little effect on her, as they passed through her form, leaving her only with a slight chill. Not everyone aspires to pursue the grand path. If one could maintain a peaceful and prosperous life, I believe many would willingly lay down their weapons. I spoke with difficulty, each breath exhaling a mist that crystallized upon the ground. If it meant ensuring a worry-free life for him and his beloved, he would not hesitate to relinquish his current cultivation without a moment's thought. The Ice Phoenix circled in the air, her expression one of profound displeasure. Time passed, and for some reason, the chilling winds in the arena abruptly ceased. The Ice Phoenix settled upon the moon lake, her aura retracting once more. She gazed upward at the sky, letting out a soft sigh. Indeed, if the world were at peace, who would wish to pursue the arduous path? One must concede that Ynbi's words held a semblance of truth, leaving her unable to refute them. With countless cultivators in the world, how many would abandon the path of cultivation if they could lead a safe life without effort? That said, the power of self-preservation is paramount. Should the knowledge of her ice soul Xian body be leaked, forces that cultivate ice attributes would undoubtedly come to claim her. And certain sacred places might even attempt to refine her into a cauldron, rendering her a target for all. With your meager cultivation, it is likely insufficient to protect her. After all, in the eyes of some, the Four Extremes realm is no different from that of an ant. The Ice Phoenix suddenly shifted her tone, fixing her gaze upon Ynbi. The atmosphere in the space fell silent. Hu Ming trembled slightly, realizing that her ice soul Xian body could provoke such immense trouble. Ynbi remained rooted in place, silent. As one of the world's top 100 physiques, it was indeed a coveted treasure. After a prolonged silence, Ynbi reached out and pinched Hu Ming's cheek. I care not for your ice soul Xian body, nor whether you wish to cultivate. All I desire is for you to live a life free of concerns. Even if the world turns against us, I shall bear the weight alone. Trust me, no one can snatch you from my grasp. In that moment, Yanbei's demeanor shifted dramatically. Enveloped in a haze of gray-white mist, as if he were making an oath, each word struck with profound resonance in the hearts of those present. Boom! A thunderous roar suddenly erupted across the heavens and the earth, deafening, as if the grand path itself were listening to Yanbei's declarations, resonating with him. The Ice Phoenix's gaze transformed in that instant. The grand path thundered. She gazed, somewhat astonished, at this young man before her. Who is he? That his words could evoke such a response from the very heavens? Such a resonance is the hallmark of a true sage. This indicates that this individual possesses the stature of a saint. At such a tender age, they have already reached the threshold of the Four Extremes realm and can elicit the resonance of the great Tao. Even the Ice Phoenix cannot help but cast a discerning glance at Yanbei. Throughout her life, she has encountered countless prodigies. Yet Yanbei remains the sole existence she cannot fathom. The Ice Phoenix's gaze remains fixed on Yanbei, and after a prolonged silence, she reflects, alas, my era has ultimately come to an end. Now, this waning spiritual form may not endure for much longer. A shadow of melancholy flickers in her eyes. Those present can discern the sense of desolation in her voice. Even a being as formidable as a saint is nearing her conclusion. The Ice Phoenix's gaze shifts to Qi Meng, and with a soft sigh, she states, since you do not wish to become my disciple, I shall not compel you. It is merely a pity for the ice soul profound body and the phoenix feather sacred land. I fear we shall never witness its glory again in this lifetime. Following a leisurely sigh, the ice phoenix transforms into a streak of light and returns to her mark. As a saint, she would not force another to become her disciple, even for the exceedingly rare ice soul profound body. At that moment, the mark shimmers with radiant light. Should you change your mind regarding the ice soul profound body, you may venture to the Fire Phoenix Valley. I shall await you. The Ice Phoenix's voice reverberates across the moon lake, and the expansive frozen terrain instantly reverts to its former state. Yanbei, astonished by the surrounding transformations, marvels at the might of a saint. In a fit of anger, she can freeze 1,000 miles of land, and with a mere thought, restore everything back to its original form. Feng Zhiyu kneels, respectfully bidding farewell to the Ice Phoenix, though her eyes brim with disappointment. Qi Meng stands rooted in place, feeling somewhat dejected. She senses the Ice Phoenix's profound sorrow. After a moment of contemplation, Yanbei too lets out a sigh. The existence of the Ice Phoenix is beyond his current comprehension. The reason he refrained from urging Qi Meng to accept was due to the implications tied to the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land. While becoming the Ice Phoenix's disciple could yield immense benefits and a significant chance of attaining sainthood, it would also entail bearing the burdens of the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land from a millennium ago. To place Qi Meng in such perilous circumstances is a risk he cannot endorse, even if it means relinquishing her formidable cultivation. The very individuals capable of annihilating the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land could just as easily seek to extinguish her life, regardless of her status as a saint. Otherwise, the Saint King would not have met a tragic end in the void, nor would the Ice Phoenix have diminished to a mere lingering spirit. The attainment of sainthood is a dream for many, yet you have chosen to reject it. Feng Zhiyu suddenly speaks, her gaze filled with disappointment as she looks at Qi Meng. She had expected everything to unfold seamlessly, envisioning Qi Meng becoming the Ice Phoenix's disciple and together leading the Fire Phoenix Valley back to its zenith. However, she never anticipated Qi Meng's refusal. Qi Meng's expression becomes somewhat awkward. She opens her mouth, but ultimately refrains from saying anything. While sainthood is indeed desirable, it is better to forego cultivation than to bear the enmity of the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land. Yanbei sighs and shakes his head. Upon hearing these words, Feng Zhiyu falls silent. Though the Fire Phoenix Valley appears exceedingly prosperous on the surface, if those who once obliterated the Phoenix Feather Sacred Land sought to target them, they could easily bring about their ruin with a mere breath. In fact, they may have already been aware of the Fire Phoenix Valley's existence, only finding them too feeble to warrant their attention. Although such a statement may appear exaggerated, it is likely rooted in truth. After all, entities capable of vanquishing the Saint King regard the extraordinary as no more significant than mere ants. Chapter 77. The Divine Mountain. Given the circumstances, I shall not press further. Feng Zhiyu sighed lightly, displaying a demeanor as carefree as that of an ice phoenix. However, before I depart, I wish to have a private word with Qi Meng. Is that permissible? Feng Zhiyu's beautiful gaze fixed upon Yanbei. Yanbei frowned slightly. Can't this be discussed here? What schemes does this divine maiden have in mind? Why are you prying into such private matters? Feng Zhiyu chuckled softly. Upon hearing this, Yanbei's lips twitched, and he ceased his inquiries. Stepping out of the small pavilion alone, the two women exchanged a few words within the pavilion, after which Qi Ming returned to Yin Bei's side. A wave of confusion washed over him. What could they have whispered about so secretively? However, he refrained from eavesdropping, recognizing the moral implications of such actions. Qi Ming, remember my words. Once you have deliberated thoroughly, feel free to seek me out. Feng Zhiyue smiled, tossing a jade talisman into Qi Ming's hand. With that, she departed into the air, accompanied by the disciples of Fire Phoenix Valley. This left Yin Bei in a state of utter bewilderment. What could those two have discussed behind his back? He questioned Qi Ming, but she merely stammered, unwilling to divulge any details. Ultimately, Yin Bei resigned himself to the mystery, deciding not to press further, for some matters would reveal themselves in due time. Excessive inquiry could prove counterproductive. 7 days later, at the Divine Mountain. This locale, a spiritual peak within the heavenly secret realm, is said to have existed since ancient times. Only recently, after the lifting of restrictions, have cultivators been permitted entry. The spiritual energy here is abundant, allowing those who enter to absorb it more swiftly, thus enhancing their cultivation with remarkable efficiency. Various rare treasures also abound, with some individuals achieving multiple breakthroughs merely by consuming them. Notably, within the Divine Mountain lies a peculiar site known as the Divine Ladder, comprising 999 steps. Any cultivator may ascend this ladder, and the higher one climbs, the greater the rewards. Among them, the celestial dragon's son distinguished himself by ascending over 500 steps, receiving the Divine Ladder's rewards and achieving a breakthrough to the Divine Palace realm, leaving all in attendance astounded. As word of these events spread, countless prodigies flocked to the Divine Mountain. At that moment, two figures appeared against the celestial backdrop outside the Divine Mountain. It was Yin Bei and Qi Ming. Their arrival instantly elicited gasps of astonishment. Is that Yin Bei? Gasp. He has also come. Numerous prodigies present turned their astonished gazes toward the pair. They had witnessed the destruction of the ancient city that fateful night, when even the formidable ancient Yuan, at the pinnacle of the 9th layer of the Divine Palace realm, met a tragic end at Yin Bei's hands. Today, Yin Bei's renown has eclipsed even that of the celestial dragon's son and the Phoenix goddess, elevating him to the zenith of the younger generation. Thus, when Yin Bei made his entrance, it caused quite a stir. Standing in the void, Yin Bei unleashed his spiritual sense, which swiftly located the position of the Divine Ladder. He had heard of the peculiarities of the Divine Mountain and had come to explore its mysteries. Simultaneously, Yin Bei held an immense fascination for the Divine Ladder. Without lingering, he soared into the depths of the heavenly God Mountain, accompanied by Qi Ming. The direction he took led directly to the location of the Divine Ladder. Was he also intending to ascend it? Let us hasten and see. The crowd outside the heavenly God Mountain erupted in excitement, swiftly turning to follow Yin Bei, eager to witness how far the foremost youth of this generation could climb the Divine Ladder. At this moment, numerous prodigies were still attempting the ascent of the Divine Ladder. Among them, a fiery figure stood out remarkably. She was none other than the extraordinary goddess, Feng Zhiyue. Having already reached the 400th step, she was merely 100 steps away from matching the heavenly dragon's son. Many spectators gathered beneath the ladder, shouting in exhilaration. The female disciples from the Fire Phoenix Valley clenched their delicate fists, their eyes filled with anticipation as they gazed at Feng Zhiyue. To some, this was not merely an ascent, but a contest, an intense clash between two extraordinary factions. At this moment, the heavenly dragon's son stood at the 531st step, his expression indifferent as he watched Feng Zhiyue climb. He had received the blessing of the Divine Ladder at the 500th step, successfully advancing to the Divine Palace realm. Yet he could only ascend another 30 steps. With each step higher on the ladder, the pressure multiplied exponentially. Despite his formidable strength, he could only reach the 531st step. He cast a glance upward, his heart shaken. What manner of individual could possibly reach the summit of 999 steps? Feng Zhiyue, drenched in perspiration, her body perfectly outlined, evoked myriad thoughts. Yet, she could not afford to concern herself with appearances at this moment. Her gaze remained fixed ahead. She understood the necessity of not faltering before the 500th step. 470 steps. 477 steps. With each step, it seemed she had exhausted every ounce of her strength. Upon reaching the 480th step, Feng Zhiyue trembled, her vision darkening as she nearly succumbed to the abyss, but she steadied herself just in time to avoid falling. At that moment, two figures descended outside the Divine Ladder, followed by a throng of admirers. The spectators shuddered upon recognizing the newcomers. Indeed, it was Yin Bei. Upon his arrival, he immediately spotted the fiery figure on the ladder and the heavenly dragon's son stationed at the 531st step. It appeared the Divine Ladder held some intrigue. With nearly 1,000 steps, the challenge presented by merely 400 steps had proven arduous for the extraordinary goddess. This piqued Yin Bei's interest instantly. However, He refrained from recklessly attempting the ascent. Instead, like many prodigies, he chose to observe from below, curious to discern the limits of Feng Zhiyue. Seeing Yin Bei remain stationary, no one dared to provoke him. Rather, they kept their distance, wary of inciting his ire. Thus, the area surrounding the two seemed to clear, with all retreating. Unwilling to approach him closely, Yin Bei smiled nonchalantly, finding this arrangement quite agreeable. On the divine ladder, the heavenly dragon's son noticed Yin Bei's arrival, his expression darkening. Though he claimed to have never engaged in direct confrontation with Yin Bei, he consistently regarded Yin Bei as his greatest adversary in this lifetime. The slaying of Gu Yuan had genuinely astonished him. After all, Gu Yuan was a true peak master of the Divine Palace realm. Had he been the one to strike, he would have scarcely been able to harm even a single finger of his opponent. Yet Yin Bei had decisively vanquished him. Was this truly a prodigy yet to reach the age of 25? Had it not been for the overpowering suppression of the elder from the moon-worshipping demon sect prior to entering the Tianyi secret realm, he might have believed that an ancient monster had infiltrated their midst. Nevertheless, Yin Bei did not contemplate such matters as the heavenly dragon's son did. He never proactively provoked enemies, but should anyone dare to challenge him, he would not hesitate to obliterate them, regardless of their formidable background. Chapter 78, The Divine Ladder, 499 Steps. Feng Zhiyue's complexion was ashen, her delicate form trembling incessantly. With sheer willpower, she had finally reached the 499th step. At this moment, her legs began to grow weak, as though she were about to collapse. No, I cannot falter here. Her eyes, slightly dazed, radiated an indomitable spirit. Just one more step. To fall here would be unacceptable. Feng Zhiyue, not knowing where the strength came from, gritted her teeth and moved her right leg. Summoning every ounce of her strength, she advanced toward the 500th step. As her foot barely touched the surface, boom, a surge of inexplicable power struck her, causing her countenance to shift. Uffed. She coughed up a mouthful of blood, her breath instantly withering, and her face turned pale. Goddess! The female disciples of the Fire Phoenix Valley gasped in shock, their expressions filled with terror as they turned to gaze at the divine ladder. Just then, when everyone believed that Feng Zhiyue could no longer hold on and would topple from the ladder, a miracle occurred. I cannot fall here. Her beautiful eyes were now bloodshot as she silently roared within her heart. Boom! A phantom of the Fire Phoenix appeared behind her, letting out a thunderous cry. At that moment, Feng Zhiyue's eyes seemed to ignite with flames. With a sudden, determined step, she stood atop the 500th step. However, her body swayed perilously, as if it could topple at any moment. It took several minutes for Feng Zhiyue to acclimate to the terrifying pressure of the 500th step. She sat cross-legged upon the ladder, an incredibly pure spiritual energy rapidly converging towards her. An hour later, boom, an immensely powerful aura erupted from Feng Zhiyue, signifying her breakthrough. Like the heavenly dragon son, she shattered the bottleneck of the primordial spirit realm and ascended to the divine palace realm. After resting for another quarter of an hour, Feng Zhiyue opened her eyes and stood up, then took another step forward. She continued to ascend. 510 steps. 520 steps. At this moment, the expression of the heavenly dragon's son finally shifted. Feng Zhiyue was drawing closer to him. Should she truly surpass him, his reputation would diminish significantly, leading many to believe that he was inferior to Feng Zhiyue. However, he had already exhausted his strength. The 530 steps represented his limit. To climb higher, he would need to advance in his cultivation. However, he had just broken through to the divine palace realm, making any immediate progress impossible. 529. Feng Zhiyue exchanged a glance with the son of the heavenly dragon, and without hesitation, they stepped forward. Boom. Feng Zhiyue ascended the same step as the son of the heavenly dragon. The goddess had succeeded. In that moment, the disciples of the Fire Phoenix Valley erupted with excitement. Meanwhile, the members of the heavenly dragon palace wore expressions of displeasure. In their hearts, the son of the heavenly dragon was the most formidable. Even though Feng Zhiyue was also a successor of an extraordinary lineage, they still believed their own son to be the most powerful. Now that Feng Zhiyue stood on the same step as the son, it left them feeling quite uncomfortable. Congratulations, 530 steps. The corners of the son's mouth curled into a smile as he regarded Feng Zhiyue. Though he felt quite unsettled internally, he maintained an air of elegance. Feng Zhiyue nodded in acknowledgement, then turned her gaze back to the steps above. This scene caught the attention of everyone present. Was the Phoenix goddess planning to ascend further? A jolt of anxiety surged within the son of the heavenly dragon, as an ominous premonition gripped him for reasons unknown. Indeed, Feng Zhiyue had no intention of halting at the 530 steps. After her breakthrough to the divine palace realm, the fiery phantom within her had grown increasingly formidable. She still possessed ample energy. With renewed determination, she advanced once more. The son of the heavenly dragon could no longer contain himself, his expression shifting dramatically. Hiss. 531 steps. Everyone collectively gasped, for at that moment, Feng Zhiyue had positioned herself above the son of the heavenly dragon, at 531 steps. What transpired next left all in attendance utterly astonished. Caw! The fiery phoenix phantom behind Feng Zhiyue let out a resounding cry as she continued her ascent, step by step. 532 steps. 540 steps. 560 steps. 599 steps. With unyielding momentum, she stepped directly onto the 600th step. As she prepared to advance further, her skin suddenly manifested a series of fissures, as if her very body were on the verge of collapse. This unforeseen development compelled Feng Zhiyue to halt. At 599 steps, she had reached her limit, had it not been for the continuous infusion of power from the essence of the fire phoenix within her. She would not have come this far. Standing atop the 599 steps, Feng Zhiyue gazed downward. There stood the son of the heavenly dragon, his head lifted in awe, his eyes filled with astonishment. 599 steps. Surely, I am not imagining things. Goodness. That is a full 69 steps beyond the son of the heavenly dragon. At that moment, countless prodigies below stared in disbelief at Feng Zhiyue above. 599. The highest record since the opening of the celestial mountain. Feng Zhiyue inhaled the air of that place. Then her gaze fell to the ground, where two figures came into view. He has actually arrived. Upon seeing the figure clad in white, Feng Zhiyue was momentarily taken aback, then gracefully descended, not pausing upon the divine ladder. In the blink of an eye, she descended gracefully to the ground and approached the figure clad in white, smiling as she inquired, "What mighty wind has blown you here today?" Yanbei stood rooted in place, shaking his head with a wry smile, astonished to witness this side of the once aloof goddess. "This is not a matter of status. In your presence, I dare not presume." Feng Zhiyue playfully stuck out her tongue at Yanbei, naturally stepping forward to intertwine her arm with Qi Ming's. The two women stood side by side, instantly engaging in lively chatter. One exuded a warmth that seemed capable of melting anything in her path, while the other radiated a chill as frigid as a mountain, seemingly able to freeze all that surrounded her. Together, they formed a most peculiar tableau. Yanbei gazed in astonishment at their interaction, perplexed by the sudden camaraderie between them. The surrounding elites, witnessing the expression Feng Zhiyue had just displayed, trembled in awe, nearly entranced. It was truly incredible that the usually unattainable goddess would exhibit such a youthful demeanor, leaving them in disbelief. "Are you also here to ascend the divine ladder?" Feng Zhiyue inquired with curious eyes. "Having heard of the extraordinary phenomena here, I too wish to explore," Yanbei responded with a smile. A ripple of astonishment swept through the assembly. Indeed, Yanbei had come for the divine ladder. How many steps could he possibly ascend? Chapter 79. To stand at the pinnacle and survey all below. The question of how many steps Yanbei could conquer instantly occupied everyone's thoughts. 500 steps? That seemed rather scant. 600 steps? Perhaps still insufficient, considering that he had the prowess to slay a peak 9th-layer expert of the Divine Palace realm. A feat difficult to fathom. The betting had commenced, and within moments, wagers were being placed on how many steps Yanbei could ascend. Most were betting on 600 steps, with some wagering on 700 and 800, yet no one dared to bet on 900. 800 steps? "You must be here to part with your wealth," a stout man remarked, glancing at a young lad who had wagered on Yanbei's ascent to 800 steps. Unable to restrain his advice. After all, spirit stones do not appear from thin air. The young man, blushing with embarrassment, chuckled awkwardly. "No worries, I wager a modest amount." "I shall place a bet as well," came a melodious voice, causing everyone to turn in surprise. "I wager 1,000,000 spirit stones that he will ascend beyond 900 steps." A stunning woman adorned in a fiery red gown declared, clutching a bag of spirit stones. It was none other than Feng Zhiyue, joining the betting fray for a bit of excitement. 900 steps? What a jest! If not for the fact that it was Feng Zhiyue making the claim, some might have already begun to mock. Each of them had attempted the divine ladder and knew of its arduous challenges. 900 steps? In their estimation, it was utterly impossible for anyone to achieve that. Not even Yanbei. The countenance of the elite who had initiated the betting shifted dramatically. 1,000,000 stones. That was the entirety of his wealth, and should he lose, he would be unable to repay even if he sold himself. Moreover, the wager was placed by Feng Zhiyue, a transcendent goddess, who he knew would never default. The renowned figure who initiated the gambling match immediately displayed a look of hesitation. Feng Zhiyue furrowed her delicate brows, hesitating to accept the challenge. She approached the situation with a playful mindset, having never participated in any wager before. The opposing party's refusal would not pose any concern to her. The renowned figure, eyeing the 1,000,000 spirit stones, took a deep breath and declared, I accept. If Yin Bei ascends beyond the 900th step, I will pay you 5 times the amount. I cannot afford any more than that. A tremor coursed through the gathering. 5 times. If Yin Bei truly reached the 900th step, he would owe 5 million spirit stones. Such an astronomical sum could deplete the entire wealth of a top-tier sect in the eastern region. The renowned figure appeared resolute, yet inwardly he smirked. This transaction was not a loss for him. Nearly 4 million spirit stones had already flowed into the wager, and with the addition of the goddess's 1 million, the total reached 5 million. Currently, the 900th step had only one bet placed by the goddess. Even if Yin Bei managed to ascend, he would not suffer a loss. Should he fail, that 1 million from the goddess would be his for the taking. Feng Zhiyue soon held a certificate of the wager in her hand, which could be exchanged for the corresponding spirit stones after the conclusion of the match. The crowd looked at Feng Zhiyue in astonishment. Although 1 million spirit stones might not be a substantial amount for extraordinary powers, giving it away so freely felt like an immense pity. No one present believed Yin Bei could scale the 900th step. After all, this divine staircase not only tested cultivation, but also the talents and willpower of the individual. Lacking in any one aspect would surely prevent further ascent. Observing the regretful expressions around her, Feng Zhiyue secretly chuckled to herself. They had no understanding of the situation. Soon, she would be counting her winnings. You are quite willing to risk your capital. How is it that you have such faith in my ability to reach the 900th step? Yin Bei smiled and inquired. Glancing at Feng Zhiyue, naturally, I, the goddess, am filled with confidence in you. Feng Zhiyue replied with a cheerful gesture of encouragement. Since that night when the Ice Phoenix awakened, it had subtly informed her that this young man possessed the potential to attain sanctity and had a resolute mind. Unless he unexpectedly fell, he would undoubtedly become a formidable figure in the future. Establishing a good rapport with him would greatly benefit the Fire Phoenix Valley. These were the exact words relayed to Feng Zhiyue by the Ice Phoenix. She had been quite taken aback at the time. The potential for sanctity. What the Ice Phoenix proclaimed could not be false. This implied that Yin Bei might very well become a saint in the future. Simultaneously, for reasons unknown, perhaps influenced by the Ice Phoenix's assessment, she harbored a special confidence in Yin Bei. She believed he could ascend the 900th step, even if he did not. Losing that 1 million spirit stones would be merely a loss. Qi Ming also held unwavering faith in Yin Bei, convinced he could accomplish the task. Since you all trust me so much, I shall not let you down. Please take care of Qi Ming. I will return shortly, Yin Bei said with a confident smile, then strode towards the divine staircase with an elegant demeanor. He began his ascent. Instantly, the crowd trembled, their eyes fixated on the figure at the foot of the divine staircase. Standing beneath it, Yin Bei felt an overwhelming pressure before even beginning his climb. Would he succeed in ascending the 900th step? He shook his head, casting aside any hesitation as he stepped onto the divine staircase. 100 steps, 300 steps, 500 steps. Yin Bei ascended the divine staircase with the ease of a leisurely stroll, as if he were entirely unburdened. In the blink of an eye, he had already reached the 500th step. Hiss! The crowd below collectively inhaled sharply. They had long speculated that Yin Bei could at least reach the 500th step. Yet they were astonished by how effortlessly he accomplished it, standing at the same position as Feng Zhiyue in mere moments. On the 530th step, the heavenly dragon's son trembled. He gazed at the white-clad youth below, feeling an inexplicable tremor within, his heart racing at the sheer speed displayed. It had taken him and Feng Zhiyue an entire day to ascend to the 500th step. Yet Yin Bei, in the blink of an eye, had reached his vantage point. Was this truly human? Yin Bei closed his eyes, a smile gracing his lips, for he felt it was still insufficient. He continued his ascent. The heavenly dragon's son could only see a fleeting white figure flash before him, a gust of wind following in its wake. When he looked up again, the other had already reached the 700th step. This is outrageous. Even the heavenly dragon's son could not help but exclaim in disbelief. Was this still a human? He could barely register the figure before it had soared to 700 steps. Below the divine staircase, all were rendered speechless. They were even more astonished than the heavenly dragon's son. They witnessed a white figure dart from the very bottom to the 500th step, and then, with another swift motion, ascend to the 700th step. All this transpired in scarcely a dozen seconds. Standing at the 700th step, Yin Bei wore a smile. For reasons unknown, he found the climb to the divine staircase remarkably effortless, feeling only a slight pressure upon reaching this height. The sensation of standing atop the world, surveying the diminutive mountains below, was indeed extraordinary. At this moment, he perceived the crowd beneath him as mere ants. Chapter 80. Breakthrough, 700 Steps. The crowd below the divine staircase was utterly astonished. Yin Bei's speed was astonishing. In the blink of an eye, he had reached 700 steps. Feng Zhiyue's mouth fell slightly agape, equally taken aback. Although she had bet on Yanbei being capable of reaching 900 steps, she had not anticipated his effortless position atop the 700th step. She had just descended from the divine staircase and was acutely aware of the terror that lay above. When she was at the 599th step, preparing to enter the 600th, her body had felt as though it could barely endure, as if it were on the verge of crumbling. Meanwhile, Yanbei had shattered the record of the divine staircase in a mere span of seconds. Was this the caliber of a prodigy destined for greatness? Feng Zhiyu's heart was shaken, her beautiful eyes sparkling with admiration as she gazed up at the white figure. Qi Ming stood in place, a joyful smile illuminating her face. However, the next moment, when she noticed Feng Zhiyu casting a look of admiration at Yanbei, her smile faltered, her expression clouded with concern. At the 700th step, Yanbei took a deep breath and stepped forward once more. He had yet to reach his anticipated goal. The purpose of lingering here is merely to allow the body to acclimate to the pressures of this place. Thud, thud, thud. With each step taken by Yanbei, it resonated like a thunderclap within the hearts of the onlookers. His position ascended higher and higher. The 800th step. Beads of sweat formed on Yanbei's forehead as he gritted his teeth and pressed on. The moment he set foot on the 800th step, an uproar erupted in the crowd. He won, he won. Someone shouted excitedly. This individual was among those who had wagered on Yanbei's ability to reach the 800th step. Beside him, another youth displayed a grin, having also placed a bet on Yanbei's ascent. Meanwhile, the illustrious figure who had organized the betting was on the verge of laughter. Only a small fraction had bet on the 800th step. The majority had wagered on the 600 or 700 steps. Now, the spirit stones of those who had bet on the 600 or 700 steps belonged entirely to him. And he was already assured a profit unless Yanbei ascended to the 900th step, which would cost him 5 million spirit stones. Otherwise, he would reap a bountiful reward. Brother, please come down, the illustrious organizer silently prayed to the heavens. Upon the 800th step, the divine ladder suddenly radiated with an extraordinary glow. The divine ladder grants blessings. Yanbei felt a surge within him as an exceptionally pure stream of spiritual power rushed toward him. His aura steadily climbed, seemingly reaching a zenith. Confused, he glanced downward, pondering why the divine ladder only blessed him upon reaching the 800th step. Could it be that the divine ladder possessed sentience, believing that he needed to endure pressure before bestowing its blessings? It was not enough. He was merely a hair's breadth away from a breakthrough. He looked upward once more, without hesitation, and continued his ascent. Gasp! He intended to climb higher. The crowd watched in astonishment, collectively holding their breath. 850 steps. Yanbei silently recited the numbers inscribed on the divine ladder. Having entered the 800th step, he could no longer ascend with the same swiftness as before. The pressure he was enduring was terrifying. Yanbei felt as though he bore the weight of a mountain on his back, each step becoming increasingly arduous. With each elevation, the force he faced intensified alarmingly. 899. Yanbei's expression grew solemn. He bit down hard, feeling his body ache as he approached his limit. Just one more step. If he could reach the 900th step, he would receive the divine ladder's blessings, breaking through the bottleneck into the four extremes realm. Perhaps he might even attempt the 999 steps. Boom. A footfall echoed, resonating like celestial music within the hearts of all present. The 900th step. He had ascended the 900th step. The illustrious figures below seemed numbed. The miracles created by Yanbei were simply too numerous. The heavenly dragon sun remained at the 530th step, gazing at Yanbei from afar, only able to discern a somewhat blurred silhouette. He chuckled to himself, wondering if the gap truly was this vast. Having reached the 530th step, had already exhausted all his strength. In merely half an hour, Yanbei ascended the 900 steps. How disheartening it is to realize that he, a prodigious son of heaven, for the first time felt inferior to another. Yet, there was no escaping the stark reality, no matter how much he wished to deny it. Atop the 900 steps, beads of sweat cascaded down Yanbei's forehead, as an overwhelming surge of power converged upon him. Without hesitation, he settled into a meditative posture, his expression grave. Feng Zhiyu observed his focused demeanor, her gaze flickering with intrigue. Was he on the verge of a breakthrough? Previously, the Ice Phoenix had mentioned that Yanbei's cultivation had reached the threshold of the half-step four extremities realm. Now, having received divine blessings from the celestial ladder twice, it was likely he could no longer suppress his advancement. Should he truly break through to the four extremities realm here, one could only imagine the tempest it would unleash. Feng Zhiyu murmured to herself, visibly astounded. While there were numerous geniuses, and some disciples from sacred lands could indeed attain high levels of the divine palace realm at this age, those who could transcend to the four extremities were exceedingly rare. The divide between the divine palace realm and the four extremities realm is a significant watershed. For an ordinary individual, Merely refining a single limb could take years, even decades. Yet here was Yen Bei, so young, poised to step into the four extremities realm. This was utterly astonishing. If this news were to spread, it would undoubtedly send shockwaves throughout the eastern domain. Yen Bei furrowed his brow, as torrents of energy surged within him, threatening to burst forth. Heavenly suppression technique. He bellowed, a mysterious force enveloping his entire being. However, as this power sought to radiate outward, it seemed thwarted by an unseen barrier, unable to permeate even a fraction. Yet in this moment, Yen Bei cared not for obstacles. He was on the brink of a breakthrough. The stagnation of his cultivation had finally loosened. Boom. A resounding explosion reverberated from within, as the spiritual energy from the celestial ladder surged towards him, coalescing into a vortex akin to a funnel. Those gathered below trembled at the sight. For reasons unknown, when they attempted to scan the celestial ladder with their divine senses, they could not detect Yen Bei's presence. It was as if he had vanished. Yet, to the naked eye, he remained seated serenely on the 900th step. This spectacle was nothing short of extraordinary, yet none understood the true nature of what had transpired. Chapter 81. The Azure Emperor. The spiritual tempest raged for a full quarter of an hour before gradually subsiding. Yen Bei exhaled a deep breath, rising to his feet. An unimaginable, awe-inspiring power lay dormant within him. He had finally shattered the confines of his limitations and stepped into the four extremities realm. Moreover, this was not a mere elevation. He had not only entered the four extremities realm, but had surged through several levels, attaining the fourth heaven of the four extremities realm. This remarkable ascent was likely due to his prolonged stay at the pinnacle of the divine palace realm, resulting in such a terrifying breakthrough. Clenching his fists and reveling in the formidable energy coursing through him, Yen Bei smiled. If he were to compare, he could now effortlessly overpower the version of himself from an hour prior with but a single finger. Only 99 steps remain. And as he gazes upward at the daunting height of 999 steps, Yen Beichao's expression darkens with concern. Where once he brimmed with confidence, the weight of uncertainty now bears down upon him. Since he ascended the 900th step, he has been engulfed by an unprecedented and terrifying pressure. The moment he makes a move, he is met with an overwhelming force, as if a formidable adversary stands before him, relentlessly assaulting him. Each step forward now demands immense effort, and with 99 steps still ahead, he cannot ascertain whether he will reach the pinnacle. Below, the onlookers witness Yen Bei rising once more, and an uproar ensues. My heavens, 900 steps. Even the heavenly dragon's chosen has only managed to ascend 530 steps. Yet Yen Bei has reached 900. Is he truly human? Many stare in astonishment at the figure clad in white above. The youth who initiated the wager is now visibly distressed. He had finally accumulated some wealth, only to realize he would lose it all to Feng Zhiyue, and he dares not renege. She is an extraordinary goddess, and he is certain that if he defaults, his sect will face dire consequences once they leave the secret realm. At 900 steps, he ponders, hand it over. Just as he contemplates this, a melodious voice graces his ears. Feng Zhiyue extends her palm, her face radiant with a smile as she gazes at the young man. His expression darkens further. Yet he has no choice but to produce all the wagered stakes. Upon counting, he discovers he still falls short, and with great reluctance, he extracts an additional 300,000 spirit stones from his own pocket to complete the sum. The surrounding prodigies gaze in awe at the brilliance emanating from the 5 million spirit stones, their mouths watering. Though some hail from prestigious backgrounds, their status does not elevate them high enough to remain indifferent to such a fortune. Yet, none dare to make a move, for this is Feng Zhiyue. Should they wish to invite annihilation upon their clans, they need only act, as the Fire Phoenix Valley is notorious for its fierce protection of its own. On the 900th step, Yen Bei steadies himself, channeling his spirit to its zenith. He is prepared to continue his ascent. Without hesitation, he takes a step forward. Bang! A muffled groan reverberates as an unimaginable wave of pressure descends upon him. Yen Bei's legs tremble, his body sways, and he nearly falters. That was close. He almost squandered all his efforts. A bead of cold sweat forms on his brow, realizing how perilously close he came to falling. Indeed, after the 900th step, each advance becomes increasingly arduous. Even having entered the four extremes realm, he finds himself struggling with every step. Thus, with gritted teeth, Yen Bei cautiously resumes his climb. At each step, he required a brief respite, as the pressure weighed upon him incessantly, akin to a deluge threatening to overwhelm. Each ascent demanded considerable exertion from him. He had to maintain his utmost state of preparedness, otherwise, a moment's lapse could lead to a perilous fall. 930 steps. 960 steps. Upon reaching the 960 steps, the only source of light was the silvery radiance emanating from the divine ladder, while the sky outside had darkened. He had stood upon this divine ladder for a full 10 hours, Yet weariness eluded him, and he dared not entertain it. Now at the 960 steps, Yin Bei was resolute. He would not relinquish his quest to reach the summit. For reasons unknown, he felt an irresistible force drawing him forward, filling him with an urgent desire to proceed. Simultaneously, he communicated with the small tomato residing in his consciousness. The system was ever ready. The tomato's voice echoed in Yin Bei's mind, invigorating his very being. Below, the crowd of onlookers remained, their numbers even swelling, including many native beings from the Tiani secret realm who had come to witness. The divine ladder was steeped in ancient legend. It was said that this ladder was constructed by a transcendent being of bygone eras, intended to test the talents of future generations. Legends claimed that those who could reach its pinnacle would receive blessings from this mighty figure, along with unforeseen rewards. 970 steps. Yin Bei let out a low growl, causing the air to quiver. Endless runes of the great path manifested around him, even as blood began to seep from his body. Gazing upward, he was struck with dread. He was nearing his limits, yet there remained 29 steps yet to ascend. Was this truly a place to gauge the potential of humanity? Tomato, I can barely hold on. Yin Bei shouted into his consciousness. The small tomato in his mind immediately radiated with brilliance. Ding! It has been detected that this location is the divine ladder established by the Green Emperor of ancient times. May I inquire whether the host wishes to sign in? The tomato's voice resonated softly within his consciousness. The Green Emperor. Yin Bei's heart raced with astonishment. This divine ladder was indeed crafted by an emperor. Sign in. He suppressed his inner turmoil and spoke to the tomato. Congratulations, host, on successful sign-in. Reward: 10 fragments of the primordial chi cauldron. 10 fragments of the primordial chi cauldron. At this revelation, Yin Bei nearly spat blood in exasperation. Could you not offer something else? Since entering the realm of the divine palace in its grand completion, his daily rewards had consisted solely of fragments of the primordial chi cauldron or other worthless items. The tomato had assured him it was prepared. Yet now it merely presented him with fragments, albeit 10 of them. But what use were they now? This was enough to drive him to the brink of despair. He had hoped to acquire something truly valuable through these sign-ins to aid his continued ascent of the divine ladder. With reluctance, he gazed at the remaining 29 steps above, his fists clenching slightly. Was he truly destined to halt his journey here? Chapter 82. The tribulation today as sign-in was deliberately reserved by Yin Bei until now, intending to keep a contingency plan. However, to his dismay, he was outmaneuvered by Tomato. Cursed be the day. Nevertheless, he resolved to make one final effort. Whether he could ascend to the pinnacle would depend on fate. Clenching his fists tightly, Yin Bei exhaled deeply, stowing away 10 shards of the Mother Chi cauldron before preparing to continue his ascent. At that moment, Tomato's voice echoed once more within his consciousness. Host has successfully signed in a total of 500 times, receiving an advanced gift package. Would the host like to open it now? Tomato inquired. An advanced gift package? Open it, Yin Bei exclaimed, feeling a tremor of excitement. He vividly remembered the first novice gift package, which had rewarded him with the chaotic celestial body and the indestructible sutra. Thus, upon hearing the mention of a big gift package, his eyes sparkled with anticipation. If only they could open wider. The advanced gift package has been successfully opened. Rewards: the host's divine body manifestation is activated in advance, along with the chaotic seed green lotus. Reward: heaven-grade soul weapon, god-slaying sword. Yin Bei's expression shifted to one of confusion. An early activation of divine body manifestation? Chaotic seed green lotus? What were these? Additionally, there was a small sword, seemingly carved from crystal, that felt almost transparent in his hand. The chaotic seed green lotus is one of the ancient manifestations, harmonizing with the chaotic celestial body. When utilized, it grants the host invulnerability within a foot's radius, impervious to all laws and devoid of fear from any technique. However,